The following program deals with a controversial
subject.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
We are doing great. We are doing great. We were talking about the SNL 50-year anniversary. We agree that the Adam Sandler bit was good. I didn't watch the whole thing. Was The Rock in it at all?
No.
Oh, wow.
No,
Okay.
You want to know the thing that shocked me to my core? Dan Aykroyd did not get asked to be in any of the skits.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're doing the Pentagon thing. They're doing the Pentagon thing. Oh, if they only have Dan Aykroyd come in as a conehead, that'd be the best. And nothing. And then you're watching this skit and you're like, oh, if they have this guy do that, this would be the best. And they don't.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was just like, oh. But my son, once again, younger minds prevail. They only did the ones that are huge viral TikToks and Instagram reels.
Yeah, sure.
From
I'm
previous
sure.
seasons.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that get the most clicks on social media. So they only did things that revolved around that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Bill Hader completely missing. And I'm like, what? And then they have Ted Lasso introduced that. And it was pretty funny with Eddie Murphy and the Scared Straight.
Yeah.
That was good. It was good. But they should have had, what's his name, do a Ted Lasso reference while he was doing that. They were all doing their biggest, most famous things, and Ted Lasso is sitting on the fucking desk getting nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very interesting. Let's hope that you can equate it to this is our 51st show. It's their 50th anniversary. Look how that connection goes. We're one show ahead of them. Yeah.
Oh, Brian, you're muted, apparently. Chucky Valdez says Brian is muted.
Damn, OBS gets me again.
StreamYard.
Yeah, so basically tonight, you guys, Industry of Comics night, we are going to open the mic for the industry professionals. If you're a comic professional, if you work in the industry of comics, if you are a creator, if you are a retailer, if you work in the periphery of the comic book industry, if a comic professional in any way, we want to hear from you. If you have something to say, we definitely want to hear from you.
If you're a stripper with daddy issues, we'll totally have you in.
I love how he just gives that look like, yeah, sure. Shout out to Sinopa Publishing. Appreciate that. Yeah. I don't know what it is with OBS. It takes my mic out for some reason all the time. Everything else is working, but it'll take my mic out, which is really weird, but we'll have to figure that out.
So once again, the continuing saga. Somebody asked me like last week, why are you guys still talking about Diamond? And let me just put this out there, guys. If we turned on the news tomorrow, and the giant announcement was a huge meteor is barreling towards the Earth, and it's definitely aimed right at Earth, and it'll be here in 4 months. Is there any other stories that you need to talk about? Because as far as I'm concerned,
are you not watching the news?
I know there's a giant meteor
Yeah,
headed towards Earth. That's
exactly.
what
I'm
makes.
like, oh, you're using reality.
Yeah,
Common
exactly. But you know
sense,
what?
right?
Our comic book reality is
Yeah.
there's this giant meteor headed towards the comic industry, and it's what happens when Diamond collapses. And that's what we get to talk about. That's what we have to talk about.
Right. Diamond is part of the industry. If you wrote the top 5 most important things to be successful in the industry, Diamond would be in that top 5. Now, obviously, it's reversed right now, but you don't want to ignore something that affects thousands of people, thousands of companies. Keep in mind, if a company can't ship, that means they don't print. So if they don't print, that means the printer's not working. If they're not doing books, that means artists, creators, writers, inkers, colorists, they're not working. So it snowballs into this effect, right? And people out there right now are well, what's crazy about the industry right now, the comic book industry, is people are realizing who's their friends, who's their allies, and who is the person that just needed them in that moment.
Well, I'd just like to add, honestly, Jesse, if you've been watching this show for the last 51 episodes, you were already prepared for this. You already knew every way that this was coming down. And I don't think I watch tons of shows. I don't think anybody's been on this like we have.
Yeah. Well, we're also a consistent industry show, so we don't get sidetracked. I mean, obviously we talk about SNL, but most of the time we don't get sidetracked on the weeds type stuff, right? We're pretty much direct into the comic book world, because there's the comic book world, there's the comic book industry world, and there's the people that sell comics. Just because you have a live show and you sell on Whatnot and you sell on eBay and you sell comics doesn't make you part of the comic book industry, right? The comic book industry is the business transactional end of it.
Well, let me just shout out to my boy, Tony Mielo, cartoonist for 20 years, has a syndicated cartoon called Gappo the Clown, which is hilarious if you've never read it. He's got a bunch of other IPs. I had lunch with him today, and we talked for an hour before we even brought up Diamond. But when we brought up Diamond, he's like, we've been talking about this for 10 years. That's why I went here. That's why I'm doing this over there. That's why I do all of this other stuff. He realized 10 years ago what our buddy Mark Spears learned. The industry doesn't want you. The industry is full of gatekeepers. He realized he has to do it himself if he wants to do it at all, and that's where this industry has been for a long time. It's just taken this long for the dominoes to catch up to everybody.
Right, exactly. I mean, you got people out there producing books, working their butt off. That's what being part of the industry is about. It's not about being on that final end where you say, okay, I'm going to sell that book for you. Well, what we did on page 28. Oh, I don't care about that. When do I get the book so I can sell it on my show?
Yep.
Right. And so those people that are out there every day making books, doing Kickstarters, talking to letterers, resending back something to a colorist, that's being part of the industry. So you got to work hard in this industry. You'll get noticed in the industry, but it takes a long time. Just because you have a great book doesn't put you up in top. It's a snapshot.
Yeah.
Right. I did a op-ed, and I was talking about don't forget those that have passed, because by buying their books, by reading their books, or showing their books, you keep them alive. Whether it be Jack Kirby, George Perez, Neil Adams, Bernie Wrightson, Darwin Cook, Glenn Wayne. Our job is to continue to let those folks know that they build an industry. We need to keep that industry strong going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a big way, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. And
well, should we hit all those topics that we were sharing in the chat? Because there's a lot of people that want to be a part of this industry again.
Oh yeah, Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I start off with the Universal.
okay.
Yeah, start off with that one because I think that's the most talked about backroom story going on right now. I don't know if it's a backroom talk. I think I mean, for a year
Yeah.
it was a backroom talk. Now it's kind of front and center.
Yeah. Basically, Universal Distribution is setting up in the USA as well? Question mark. And this was kind of one of the big.
From clickbait, Rich Johnston.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I think the rumors about Universal being the big buyer for Diamond for a long time has been, like Jesse says, the biggest backroom rumors. At least for me, from what I've been hearing, has been the Universal thing. So I don't know if this is more clickbait, but I think it's obvious that they're the ones that people are giving the best odds to be buying Diamond. Even
Well,
so much as to saying that there might have been something in play even before the bankruptcy.
So here's what my thought on this is, and I've been having a lot of conversations with people, and we're kind of all in agreement. I think that Universal needs to buy Diamond Games, which is Lions Games, because they don't have that foot in the door down here, and that's a very profitable business for them up there. But I don't know that you have to buy Diamond to do what they're already doing in Canada to be able to do that down here. And that's what I read out of this. I read they're going to open up their own Universal down here and then make all the deals that Universal has with Canada, but then just make those for the US and not bother wasting the money to buy Diamond.
I think that's true, but this is what I will warn you guys on this conversation. If you go in for a bank loan for your business or personally, whatever, there's a line you get about 5 down and it says, have you declared bankruptcy? And of course you write no. Then the next line says, are you going to declare bankruptcy in the future? So this has to be disclosed. So if Universal was in the mix beforehand, Diamond at some point would say, hey, listen, we're kind of going bankrupt here. So if we're then do this before, this is what it's then cost. If we're then do it after, this is where we're at. I would also want to stress that Universal, now to my knowledge, just as of I haven't looked into this, I believe Universal only has a business license to conduct business in Canada. So if they were to buy Diamond, that doesn't give them the right to do business in America.
Right.
Because you're not buying the tax ID, you're not getting the business license. So they would have to apply for a business license in the United States. And that would probably be before they even put in a bid to Diamond, and would have to have a game plan to say, okay, if we were in Tennessee and we got our business license, or maybe their business license would be out of Delaware because that's great for taxes, but then they're foreign, which is weird that they call it a foreign state, but your foreign state is Tennessee, and that's where you're conducting your business.
Right.
So they would have to have a American license to actually go forward, regardless if they won or not.
So what they bring up in this article, though, at the same time, is it would be awkward to have Universal, who has exclusive deals with Marvel, DC, Image, all the publishers to distribute in Canada. It would be weird. It would be kind of awkward now for them to come over to the U.S. and fight for those deals against Lunar and Penguin, who already have exclusive deals with those same companies to distribute in the United States. And at the same time, what if Universal gets the deals to distribute in the UK, all those same publishers? Could it cause this weird thing to happen? Now, what's that weird thing? I don't understand what's so awkward about it.
I think that's I don't know if Rich understands the corporate nature of that. I'll go to network. 1970s movie, there are no more states. There are only corporations. And if Universal has those corporate deals for Canada and a sister company has corporate deals for the UK, it's not that far of a stretch that they can go to those people they have the corporate deals with and go, hey, how long's your Penguin deal going on? Well, I mean, we could drop Marvel from the UK and Canada, or we could do this, this, and this, but we'd much rather keep the deals we have in place and add a deal. And if their deal isn't 100% exclusive with Penguin, or it's not for a long period of time, you could easily see them expanding that deal to include US. And we'll get back to the old days. We'll get back to 32 years ago when it was 5 different distributors. And that brings us to our next guest on the thing, UCS, right, which I'm pretty sure. Oh, go ahead.
Let me just say this. So one of the things when you open up a business anywhere in the United States, especially if you're in a mall. So if you're in a mall, one of the questions that you're going to ask is, how far does my radius clause actually work here? So in Dennis's case, where he sells comics, he wants a radius clause in that mall to say no one can sell comics.
Exactly.
Right? So the radius clause for the comic book industry could be drawn by a country line.
I have a 10% clause for my radius. No business can be more than 10% of any of my 4 or 5 core business mixes.
Sure.
So if a new store opened up, if let's just say Spencer's got exclusive comic books, Spencer's is not going to dedicate more than 10% to their store frontage.
Right.
So I'm not worried if Spencer's gets a deal with comic books.
Right, exactly. So jewelry stores don't have radius clauses, right? Because you can't do that.
And shoe
stores and all that. But when you're a specific category that is rare to that radius, that's what you do. So what is it? What's the expensive statue company? Hot Toys?
Yeah. Sideshow, Hot Toys.
Yeah. They have huge radius clauses. So if Johnny has a Hot Toys account, but he only sells 3 Hot Toys a month, but Steve opens up who can sell 60, but he's went in within 5 miles, they cannot give him that account, right? Now, Steve could go to Johnny and try to buy him out and do all that, buy out his store. But at the end of the day, so there are some radius clauses that come into play. So that radius clause could be Europe, right? That radius clause could be Canada, US. So I would say that the common sense rules are easy to figure out, but the letter of the lease, the letter of the law pertaining to the industry, that's very unique. And that's why people have lawyers to make those decisions.
So this says here, Adam, real quick, Adam, Awesome Sauce Radio, Blind Adam is asking, what exactly is Universal? Universal is a distribution company like Diamond that has the rights to distribute comics in Canada with publishers. And so they're thinking about buying Diamond here in the U.S. to just have a distribution arm in the U.S.
Or as I think, they're setting up a hub so they don't have to buy Diamond, or in case somebody else bids out Diamond too.
Got you.
Yeah, and Dennis, you are correct. There's no reason for a company who's in play to actually have to buy Diamond. A Universal buying Diamond, there's 3 reasons to buy it. Here's your 3 reasons. The store listing, the publisher listing, and to get an egotistical win that they bought Diamond. Because you can't reuse the name. And if you did reuse the name, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Right.
You can't use most of the employees, because if you use those employees that call the same publishers that they owe money to, being part of that company, they're going to hang up the phone, right? So those are your 3 values. I can tell you right now, if you went and posted a post on Bleeding Cool saying any comic book store that wants to get new issues, please email us at XYZ. That might save you about $4 or $5 million, right? Where the value is, and we'll move on to UCS on this, is all the assets, whether it be Free Comic Book Day, PX, and all that. So,
yeah. And that's exactly what UCS is. People, if you don't know what UCS is also a distribution company through Midtown, right? Is it Midtown that owns UCS or vice versa?
Yes.
And back during the pandemic in 2020, DC decided to do a deal with UCS and Lunar to split up half the country to make it easier to get comics to stores because of what we were going through in the pandemic. And eventually, DC, when everything kind of came back to normal, started going back to normal, they went exclusive with Lunar to do the whole country. I don't know who is there anybody that UCS distributes for now?
Well, if you read the article, basically Midtown became kind of a sub-distributor through the last several months of, hey, this store got screwed. They need to get some comics. Midtown would just give them some, sell them some. I don't know how that worked out, but Midtown orders enough that I'm sure they could bleed off 10% to the local people that needed them and keep everybody rolling. And I think that's what they think this is also going to be, is kind of a mild sub-distribution of all of the smaller things while everything's kind of in chaos.
Right. Yeah, they could try and keep some comics on shelves, right? Just a small amount of comics on shelves to the people who aren't getting them. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So this was a Amazon situation where Amazon first started. Who did they ship through? USPS, and they did it for 3 years. Why? They needed to know how it was done. Now you see the big blue trucks driving around the neighborhoods, delivering package.
I've got a story for you today then, Jesse, and maybe you can answer this for me. I bought a part for my van that blew up last week coming back from Chicago, and I bought it on eBay Motors. And today, a guy in a blue vest in a blue truck with an Amazon vest on delivered my eBay order to me. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So when you look at a Amazon order, it's actually 3 lines. It's who you bought from. The second line will say USPS, because that's traditionally who you use through eBay or Amazon, or not Amazon, FedEx or UPS. And the third line is your, I forgot what they call it, but it's called like an extension route. That's who's actually delivering it. So you might have paid postage for USPS, but USPS is saying, you know what? It's cheaper if we use Amazon on this, so we're then give you an Amazon sticker. And that's how that kind of works. We do that all the time. We buy through USPS, and then it pops out as FedEx because why? It's $4 cheaper for us going to the same address. So, very, very interesting when it comes to UCS. Now, keep in mind, UCS was making more money on, oh, yeah, Jesse, I'll ship you those 40 new issues this week, but here's our sales list. Here's our background list. Hey, we got all these Scotty Youngs that you can't get from Diamond. Hey, you got all these Shannon Mayer books. You got these zombie tramps. You got these 1 in 100s. We're just selling for $10. So even though your Diamond or your DC order was only $100, your actually purchase was like $900, right? And I could see them going back to that as well and saying, hey, we got all this back issues. We want to sell them to the public. How do we do that? Well, we deliver some books, right? And so I think UCS is a high percentage of a possibility, but if you have to change your business too much, then it could be a negative.
Well, this goes back to our Brian Polito opening up his new crowdfunding for himself. If just follow my logic on this. Midtown is probably one of the biggest movers of comics. When that Marvel leak happened, it showed that, yes, they are the biggest Marvel account. Because of that, they know how much Diamond has made on them, because all their orders had to go through Diamond, except for when it went through DC. And I'm sure they made a sweetheart deal with DC to keep getting their comics, even though they weren't going to sub-distribute for them anymore. If you could eliminate paying Diamond for any of your books, that would be worth them adding up how much you pay Diamond every year and figuring out how much that is to buy Diamond, and just be the Diamond at that point.
Right, exactly. And so, the question about, is the third route then be replaced by local drones? So right now, pizza companies are, especially in Tempe, Arizona, they're using, Brian, what are those called? Those robotic?
Wayus.
What are they called?
Wayus or Wayos?
Yeah, they don't fly. They're actually
The
on the
driver
ground.
ones, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that is in process now, and that actually has been working very well. Midtown does have a bike service, right? So you can order some books, and they deliver your books on bikes. So futuristic, I think it's quite possible that could be a great engine to be used in the future. So who knows?
Well, the other thing is there's a lot of assets for sale at from Diamond right now, and that's a big part of all this talk. And I want to go through this list real quick again to remind everybody what is available through Diamond. It's not just the comic distribution. That's probably one of the smallest parts, right? The comic distribution part. So you have the comic distributors, obviously. They have a book distribution division, the Alliance Games division that we talk about all the time. A lot of people don't realize they own CGA, Comics Grading Authority, Collectible Grading Authority. I mean, they do toys and action figures and stuff.
Well, they bought AFA several years ago, and I think that's under that.
Yes. So that's a huge part of the collectibles world that we love and we talk about constantly.
Made me a lot of money this week.
Yeah, Dennis just had a huge sale at Heritage, broke multiple records for graded mint on card toys. So that's a big deal. That's a big division right there in the collectibles world. Fandom World division. That's like what their online selling platform for collectibles and stuff. Here's a big one, freecomicbookday.com, which brings me to a question here. Who was the original guy that did, I'm spacing on his name.
Joe Fields, Flying Colors.
So why, did he sell it to Diamond?
Yes. Yeah, so he sold out about, I believe, 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
He didn't want to deal with it anymore. He actually did an article about how it's morphed into what he didn't want it to be. And he felt that it was too much of a business and forgetting the fact that it was free comic book day. So
yeah.
Yes. So that's a very interesting part. Diamond Select Toys is a big one, right? Marvel, Warner Brothers, Disney IPs that, they have those.
If you've ever been to a Disney actual branded store on property or off property, you'll see that Diamond Select Toys has multiple different IP kind of imprints through Disney. They make the little PVCs, they make the statues, they make the action figures.
Yep. What are the big Marvel ones that they used to do that are kind of like Legends, but they're not?
I can't remember that brand, but yeah.
Anyways, Gentle Giant. Woo!
Yeah, they bought them right after they declared war with me.
Well, Gentle Giant kind of died. I mean, they completely died on the vine. They were such a great thing. Their Star Wars busts and statues were second to none. And they just died on the vine. Again, another thing where it's like, why did you let that die? I don't understand why that died, how it died. I'd be very interested to know the history of that. That's the other thing. In 2 or 3 years, when we start hearing from people the stories of why some of these divisions died or didn't work out, or why all this happened, why all this went down, it's going to be very wild to hear those stories. So Gentle Giant's a big one. Iron Guard Supplies. They do card binders, card sleeves, displays, comic supplies, card supplies, backer boards, bags, stuff like that.
This was actually, so Brian, remember we stopped by Diamond's booth at San Diego, and they had just a little table with a guy passing out free sleeves and free penny sleeves and all of these supplies. I was actually impressed with it, but at the time, I'm not buying from Diamond, and I don't have a war like Emmett does with BCW. and BCW's had better prices, and but it was definitely, the quality was there, but I don't think they advertised it enough to the retail community.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah. There are so many ways to grow these divisions that I just felt like we're lost. Again, I don't know shit. I know the least amount on all this stuff, and I say it all the time, but it feels very obvious that a lot of these could have been, very profitable if you ran them correctly or had the ability to run them correctly, because we don't know what happened with Diamond. I don't know if we ever will. Comic Exporter Inc., holding company that owns 50% of Diamond Comic Distributors UK, a distributor of comic books, collectibles, and related merchandise for the UK. So there's the UK distribution company.
So from what I understood, Diamond UK is owned by somebody big over in UK, and it's this card right here. And we're talking about trying to get him on the show. The other half of that is Diamond facilitating. The reason Diamond gets half of that is they're facilitating the licenses and that
the
stuff.
US part. Yeah.
Right. So from what I understand, that's a 50% kind of in name only, and the other company runs it, and Diamond just kind of tacks on to the end of it.
Gotcha. Comics Holding Inc. We just talked about that, didn't we?
That's doubled up, yeah.
And then Diamond Comic Distributors UK, which is basically the same thing. So,
a couple of things on this that, this is what happens when reporting is just done without actually investigating on what you're writing. So I'm very interested on, is it really 50%? Is there 49-51? Because there's very few times companies split with an even 50-50. It's not good business to be 50-50 because you can't make decisions. That's the first thing.
The way you can really tell this, Jesse, is Diamond UK has operated without a single problem over the last 3 or 4 months.
Right. Sure.
Something is going pretty good over there that isn't going good over here.
Correct. And it could be the difference of how much is owed, all this stuff, how much their monthlies are. The other thing is, are you buying properties like General Giant that has license agreements? Are those still continuing?
Yeah.
Or will those phase out? So you got to be careful on that. The interesting thing is they didn't talk about Gemstone. They didn't talk about PX. They didn't talk about Overstreet. They didn't talk about Hakes. So what is going on as a whole? If you're then together a company, you probably need that Hakes as a component for your auctions. You probably want Overstreet. You want to reboot that. Gemstone, what do they have? Do I get the back property for Disney as reprints? No. So there's no value for Gemstone. Gemstone is worth $1. And that's probably, you should get change back on that dollar. Overstreet, or we're talking about Overstreet, PX.
Well, but let me just say something about Overstreet though. Overstreet is a brand that makes one product once a year.
But you could buy that for XYZ and change that to a collector page, and it would take a week.
And if Nick's not considering that, he's not as smart as I thought he was.
Why not hire Nick and say, Nick, here you go. This has 90,000 people in it.
Yep.
We're going to transfer this over, bam, and you do that merge and you do XYZ.
Yeah, instant legitimacy.
Right, exactly. So at the end of the day, when you write something, it needs to be a little bit more meats and potatoes, not what someone actually wrote, because that's interpretation. But pardon me. But so if you sell all those assets, let's say you sell all those assets except for Diamond, right? So everything sells separately except for Diamond distributors. Where is the value left? because Diamond Distributors was the one distributing all this product. Well, they don't have to distribute that product anymore because it's split off.
Yeah.
Right. So very, very interesting to sell your assets off in a bankruptcy. Pre-bankruptcy, sell your assets. Right. That helps you not go into bankruptcy.
Well, the problem is you have to, the second you put that blood in the water, let's just say, you know, Steve knew the bankruptcy is coming and he was like, hey, let's sell this off. Let's sell this off. Let's sell this off. The second those sales happened, everybody was like, why is Diamond selling off their card supply company? Oh, wait, something worse is happening here.
Yeah.
And then everything collapses faster. If you wait until the announcement, it's probably less of a hassle than before you made the announcement.
Right, exactly. And you would think that would go with Alliance anyways.
Yeah.
That makes common sense.
Yeah.
Again, and I will continue to ask this question as I am always, what is the best way to say this without saying what I can't say, is I'm indulging in what's going on. Again, that question is, if I buy Diamond Distributors, everything in the warehouse, what stays?
Right.
Because if there's Dynamite books, I need to know, are those
the
Dynamite
other
books
thing
going to Dynamite?
Right. And like I said, Jesse and I have bought out plenty of stores, big and small. I was there at Borders when Borders was selling out the local stores, and there were always sections. Nope, you can't have that. That all has to go back to this guy. Nope, You can't have any of that. That's going back to this guy. You know, so I can only imagine the size of that Olive Branch warehouse and how many things are not allowed to be touched right now. Like, I guarantee you, well, I can't guarantee you because I don't know, but if Image has already pulled the plug on everything they have, and tell me, can you order any Image book from Diamond right now?
No, I haven't really looked for Image books, but
yeah. But you know what I'm saying is there's a section of that warehouse that's full of Image books that right now is tied up in the legalities and it can't be sold.
Here's the other, before we drop the link here for comic professionals for open mic night. I want to talk about the other obviously problem that we've been talking about is the folding of small press publishers. We have multiple publishers who have already started folding. Blood Moon, Black Panel Press. They're basically either folding, going out of business, or going the crowdfunding route. They're immediately going crowdfunding route. And it's kind of sad to see these publishers folding because they should just go crowdfunding route. I mean, it seems so smart just to pivot to that crowdfunding route. Obviously
we've said it.
Yeah.
Jesse and I have said it. Diamond being lazy has made the industry be lazy. I honestly believe that. I'm not trying to be negative about that. I'm just saying clearly every retailer that was still buying DC and Marvel through Diamond and paying a higher percent, except for like an Emmett situation where he got a better deal from Diamond than he could have got from Lunar. If you were still using Diamond as that crutch to keep you in the game, then you should have been looking for other crutches or a better rehab to get you out of that situation.
Right.
And these guys waited until this point to do that.
Right. And keep in mind, business is run by people that show up. And until you can convince me of anything other, that means you control your destiny. No one else controls your destiny but yourself. So if your desire is to always be a small press person, awesome, great. You have there's no more excuses, right? You can't say, well, I don't know if Kickstarter works. I don't know if crowdfunding works. I don't know if conventions work. I don't know if YouTube works. I don't know if Whatnot works. I don't know if eBay Live works. You know what? It works. Facebook Live works. So your excuses are you looking in the mirror and saying, okay, stop being petty and get up and do the job.
So, Brian, shameless plug for my new video that just dropped yesterday. Everybody's heard me talk about the hippie record store. and I finally made my video outlining how the hippie record store survived the Napster iTunes crash and basically became a viable business model after 60 years and failure, and they came out on the other side. And I've been saying it for years. We need to pivot into being more like a hippie record store for comic books so that we can survive if something happened. And now something has happened and we have to pivot.
Right. Yeah, but again, sequential, I disagree with you. In 2016, I told Diamond, I don't need you. This is what I'm doing. Right.
Yep,
so Dennis did the same thing a couple years later. So there are people that said something. The problem is at that time, especially me and Dennis, our social media wasn't controlled by us. At that time, we were at the whim of a Bleeding Cool, a Comic Vine, a Comics Beat. Now we do control our own social networking and our own social media. So now when we do something that's a little bit more out there, so I would say a small percentage, not when you say no one, I think there was a small percentage that said, fine, I'll do it. I'll take the gut punches. And we took some big gut punches, trust me. Most people wouldn't have survived what me and Dennis went through when we decided not to do business with Diamond openly, and on top of that, not go out of business. So that's kind of key there. But yeah, business is run by those that show up. So you got to show up. You got to look at your opportunities. The problem is sometimes people are afraid to ask for help. And you got to ask for help. And you just
and then you have to do the hard work to get you there.
Yeah. One of those guys that's doing the hard work to get you there, one of the guys that joined us on our recent open panel discussion that I think had some great insight. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam from Sinopa Publishing. How you doing, Sam?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Now, before we start, I do owe an apology to a couple of people I was supposed to reach out to since the last time I was here. My stepdad just died Sunday. We were dealing with that, the leading up to that. So I'll get up with you guys later this week. Sorry about that. We just had, family issues. But I'd like to offer you guys a little insight about what I'm seeing on my end. Okay. So
first of all, tell everybody what you publish and how you publish, et cetera. Because I think, first of all, I don't know if your ears are burning, but I've been talking about you a lot because I think you're on to more things than you're off of, if you get my drift.
Thank you. So I create role-playing games and comics, and I also publish Necroholic for Brian Lee. The comics we put out are 47 Furious Tales, which is a 12-issue limited series of the Aiko incident, the story of the 47 Ronin told through anthropomorphic animals. Now that is first 3 issues are done. We hope to finally get issue 4 out this year now that my artist has gotten settled. We also put out Reign of Ages, which is co-owned by myself and Nick Capone, who's an instructor at the Kubert School. That's our black and white dark fantasy. Tipping Our Time Traveling Psychedelic Mushrooms, which is our fun, trippy little comic. Actually, issue 2 is coming to Kickstarter here in a couple of weeks. And then the book by Brian Lee that we published is Necroholic, the dark comedy about an alcoholic necromancer and all the hijinks she gets into when she gets blackout drunk. And then open game license stuff for RPGs, D&D field, stuff like that. So good to see everyone in the chat. I recognize some friendly faces down there, so looking forward to hearing what they have to say too. Let me open this up by saying that we are still only at the very tip of the fallout, in my opinion, from the Diamond bankruptcy declaration and how everything's going to shake out. But the current thing that I'm seeing a lot on the ground as a creator, and I think some people in the audience can vouch they're seeing the same thing too, is we're getting more and more artists and writers who are reaching out to us because the Diamond declaration doesn't so much affect me right now because I don't have a monthly release schedule. So that really minimized my vulnerability to market pressures. When I have a book ready, I ship it directly to shops. We get paid, they sell it, they make money, everyone's happy, right? It's more of a craft kind of level, a cottage level industry at that point until we can, get the capital going. But the the one thing that's nice about that is it lowers our vulnerability to things like this. So we feel a little bit less when distribution hiccups happen, and we feel a little bit less hurt if we have other downward pressures, right? Because our overall sum total of capital flow is smaller. That means that a smaller percentage impact isn't bankrupting us in the amount of 2 or 3 people's living wages, right? So those little small hits, if it's 3, 5, even 10% sometimes, we can absorb, right? But when you're talking about dealing in hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars every month, and you're taking 10, 20, $30,000 hits every month, that gets up to 400K pretty damn fast. And when you're talking about a distribution model business with very tight margins, something like that is catastrophic. Whereas for me, hey, we've got books, we ship books, we get paid, great, everything's fine. And touching on Jesse's comments earlier about making your way through this, whether it's through Kickstarter, whether it's through direct sales to stores, whether it's on Whatnot, whether it's on your direct sales, do everything that you can, and then learn how to fit in other stuff. Figure out how it's done. I am not great, I'll tell you right now, at marketing, so I'm trying to learn. I have never been on Whatnot, so I'm trying to watch and learn. Actually,
Sure.
I've seen some of the stuff that Larry Patrick Higgins has done. He's done some really cool stuff, but he has some really outstanding covers too. So there's a big cover collector market there, and Larry plays to that pretty well. And avail yourself of the simple wisdom of knowing when you don't know something. If you feel yourself taking a guess, stop. Just stop. Find someone you can ask a question to. Reach out to if you I don't know, if you speak to Brian Polito, ask Brian Polito. If you talk to Dennis, ask Dennis. If you are lucky enough to know Ben Dunn, for God's sake, that's 40 years of experience in the business. Ask Ben. And if it's about crowdfunding, avail yourself of people who are making it happen. Ask people like Mike Shea or like Madeline Holly Rossing, right? Or a plethora of other people who are not just making their books happen there, but doing it consistently, who have developed their versions of best practices. And you're going to find that what works for one person might not work for you, but you can find something in that's working for them and adapt it. It's like Bruce said, be like water. Okay. Be like water. Find how it fits and then make it happen.
Well, I'm not trying not to interrupt you, but I've heard so many people over the last year or two. They specify that this one concept helps them navigate through this, and it's called first principles. And I think there's a lot of people that don't establish what their first principle is. I know Jesse has. I know I have. And I think a lot of this comes up to these publishers, and their first principle isn't necessarily making a good comic, getting it out on time, and getting it to the public. Right. I think their first principle is getting this deal and trying to sign this other deal and getting to that point before coming back to the first principle. And I guarantee you Diamond lost that first principle a long time ago.
Sure.
For me, I'm first and foremost a writer. So I write my stuff out. If I like it, I'm confident in it, then I'm going to go ahead and move forward with it. I have a bad habit of tinkering in my scripts though, until I finally get them done. Like I've got Tibby issue 2 coming to Kickstarter in 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm still tweaking a little bit on the scripting while we get some pages done. So there's actually a page I might have redrawn, but you get the idea. But while all this is going on and people are trying to adapt, one of the things that we're seeing too is people who are working in the industry, particularly among indie publishers who were on that regular monthly cycle, who were dependent on getting paid from Diamond so that they could pay their creators. And now we have a lot of artists and a lot of writers who are still waiting to see if they're going to get paid. Now, I want to make something very, very clear. I don't in any way, shape, or form blame the publishers who were following that model. It was sound so long as far as we all knew that Diamond was sound. But in absence of that data, you know, if you had a crystal ball and you knew they were going to declare bankruptcy, then yeah, I blame you. But since no one knew that was coming, then to find themselves in this position is understandable. But in the meantime, the people who are taking it on the chin are these artists and writers. And so you're seeing these folks who are desperately looking for something to do now because bills are due now, right? And the problem with that is, of course, you've got to figure out who's hiring and who can hire, who can do stuff. Like, for example, we don't have anything left to take anyone on this year. All of our books are planned for the rest of the year, and we're scheduling stuff for 2026. If it's someone who's just getting started, do you take a chance on someone who's never done it before? Are you going to hire out for 2 pages and then commit to everything else if they get their funding lined out from crowdfunding or bank loan or mom and dad or whatever? I mean, there's this stress on these folks, these brilliant artists, these wonderful writers, these creators who are in the moment trying to get their bills paid. And I think that hurt is only just begun. And I think we're going to be seeing this play through at least for the majority of this year. Because we all know the production cycle, right? You have your script, you have your editorial, you have your layouts, you have all this done. Your comic goes through however many stages your actual production run is.
I think you're being optimistic and thinking it's only through this year.
Maybe.
Yeah.
One of the things I think that might help alleviate that is as some of these companies are transitioning over to other distribution houses, hopefully it will get that payment cycle kicked back into them, but there's still going to be a hole in the wallets of the folks who are missing payments for January, February, and March, right?
Yep.
I mean, 3 months without pay for any of us, let's face it, that's not a great place to be. But the other thing too that you see is that some of these folks are taking it and saying, I'm done working for other people, and they're bringing their own IP out, whether it's on Webtoons or whether it's through Indiegogo or Kickstarter or what have you. And so we're getting to see some of the creations that these folks have been wanting to do, but had commitments where they were tied up for this, that, and the other. But now when there's no money coming in and people are technically in breach of contract, you got to get paid.
Right.
So
exactly.
hopefully these folks can find their footing in that market, whether it's in crowdfunding or, like I said, through the digital media or through, advert fueled sites to keep the bills paid and keep their craft alive. The meantime, I'll tell you, I'm grateful to work with the pros I work with. I'm really happy with the work they're putting out. And I just hope that we can grow enough to start taking on some more in the future, because this is heartbreaking to see what some of these folks are
by
going
far.
through.
Excellent.
Well,
What's going on?
Hey,
what's up, Emmett?
how about you guys?
Hey,
It's been really cool listening. I was a little late, closed the shop a little late, so I'm sorry.
But
No
so
worries, brother.
along with what Sam was saying, those are the dominoes falling at that end. Okay, that's the dominoes that started over there.
and just the first few, it's going
And
to get
just
worse.
the first few, it's going to get worse.
Yep.
And it's not going to get better until the asteroid either misses us or is coming closer, and everybody
We
has
got a plan for the asteroids. Relax. You got a
Bruce
you got
Willis.
missiles.
Bruce
Come
Willis.
on, man. You ain't watching the right YouTube shows.
Bruce Willis isn't what he used to be, and Ben Affleck definitely isn't going to save the day.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to make one statement before we move forward. JSA, you mentioned the Jeppies. When we speak Diamond, we're not talking about the Jeppies. We're
No.
talking about Diamond. We all have personal relationships with the Jeppies, and if I was going to throw them under the bus, I would say their name. So we are pro Jeppies. Just for that. There you go.
But
Now,
what I was saying is,
doesn't the Jeppy family own Diamond? And I
Okay.
thought they had spun Alliance out years ago.
no.
No, they
So-
still.
So
Well, I know they own it, but I thought it was under
they
the
own
Jeppy
an umbrella
family.
called Jeppy
Yeah.
Family Entertainment. Jeppy
Right.
Family Entertainment owns all of the stuff under that umbrella, which is
Yep.
everything that was listed in that. That's the corporate buffer that they have in place.
Mhm.
That doesn't affect Steve, his personal, stuff.
Yeah.
He owns the umbrella, and everything that falls below it is in the corporate structure.
Right, exactly. And so, what goes on in Alliance might not actually go to Diamond as far as what they're doing and all that, because they have different budgets and all that. Sam, I do want to ask you a question here.
Of course.
Well, can I finish what I was saying, Jesse?
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. So, we know the dominoes are over here, but, and Emmett is, clearly one of the dominoes over on this other end, those publish or the retailers buying their new books. And like we've said on this show, constant times, those dominoes are falling one by one in slow motion. And if you're not ready to get out of the way of those dominoes through other sales channels, through other avenues of revenue, you're going to be another one of those. And then on top of that, 80% of the retailers were in arrears. Yeah. That is going to come into play. That's why Diamond didn't have the money to pay Peter, pay Paul, pay Mary to get out of this situation.
Right. But I again, someone not paying also means the person that is charging needs to collect. And at some point says, hey, Jesse, you owe us $1. Until we get that $1, we ain't shipping you this $30 worth of stuff. Exactly. That doesn't happen. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen. And Diamond's one of the few companies that does not enforce that. In kindness, I think that's great. But in actual business, that's a very big negative.
Right.
The question I want to ask you, Sam, is in most businesses, the shoe business, the clothes business, you don't have to have something coming out monthly. Sometimes it's weekly. Every 6 months, a new Ducker shoe comes out that's red. Why in comics do you feel there has to be a monthly, even if it's sequential? Why does there have to be a monthly?
The monthly, I think, is what the market has become accustomed to satiate their urge for content in this format. Now, I like the idea of like more of a European model in some regards, where you have bigger books released quarterly. That gives you a little more time to make sure that your product is dialed in as best you can, which is honestly probably why the only things I buy anymore are Kickstarter books, because I get stuff from creators that they've taken a little extra time. I don't mind waiting a couple of months. I get my book in, everything's cool. But for the monthly release schedule, for a publisher, I think the other thing you have to recognize is, while our overhead, my office is in my apartment, right? I handle everything out here nice and clean. The problem is that the principal venue for the market doesn't run out of people's apartments. It runs out of people's storefronts or on their web stores. Either way, the storefront, the direct market, or on spinner racks like we've got through Comics Mainstream, they have overhead costs in those physical locations. They need a continuous stream of revenue of some kind so that they can make their overhead and see their profit. Because while I'm not responsible for all that, my philosophy on capitalism is that if I want to make money on the stuff that I make, the retailers who I'm supplying have to make money on the stuff I make. And that's one thing that's held true for me in the small little group of stores that I ship to directly. When I get something out, whether it's 30 books, 50 books, or for one chain, 100, they're going to put them out, they're going to move them, they're going to sell them, and then they're going to be happy. And even if it's just like, hey, we buy 30 books and, we make $75 net on that. Great, cool, freaking-tastic. Let me know if you want more. I'll get some more in there to you. I have to recognize where my market is. Now, I love Fund My Comic. I can put up our web store and we sell stuff through there. I'm redoing our web store there probably this coming week. That's been fun for us. We haven't seen a whole lot of traffic, but we've had solid sales. And what's really nice about that from a web store perspective is that our customers, where we're direct to customer on that, have this pleasant surprise experience because they're used to identifying Fund My Comic as a crowdfunding platform. wait 2-3 months to get your book, right? But the stuff we put there is already done, already in inventory, and we're just shipping directly, usually the same night it goes. So we get really good customer interactions that way. And so that has been leading to some of those folks coming in and backing us on Kickstarter. Some of the people saying, hey, can we get this? It's not listed on the store. Yeah, we got that, no problem. But that monthly
let me jump in because I think you might have misunderstood my question. I might have asked it wrong.
I'm going to jump in, Jesse, but go ahead.
The gap between issue 1 and issue 2, why can't you be doing a Patreon or a Substack or something that is actually creating money in between to enhance that number 2 instead of just saying, okay, well, number 2 comes out here? That was more my question. Why do we have to do just the monthly and nothing else?
No, we should be doing extras. I mean, we should literally, like, one of the things we're looking at right now is a comic strip, like just like a regular like Peanuts comic strip, but for Tibby, and then putting that through certain channels, I guess I should say, and then a little one-page splash page stuff out on socials as well. Substack, I need to do more research on really before I commit to that. But I think every opportunity that we have, we need to exploit. And the fun part about that is that if you're a one-man shop, you probably don't have time to do it all yourself. So you've got to find revenue to find people who can do that. Well, Alexia Veldhausen is probably my lead for what we're looking at for Substack. She's offered to take on the job. Just got to make sure that we can commit to a contract that we can pay her fairly.
Right. Let me ask you this question before we introduce our other new guest in. Do you think the American business model for comics is chasing Marvel and DC? I mean, they've been doing it for 75, 80 years, single monthly. To be a comic book, you have to be on that comic book shelf next to Marvel and DC, and everybody's chasing that dragon. The Kickstarter model is definitely more of that European model, the album model, that model. But we're all forgetting the best business model for this entire thing, which is the manga model, right. Which is the creator only has to come up with a quarter of the story or a sixth of the story to get it into one of those Shonen Jump magazines.
Right.
And an anthology, which everybody thinks was dead.
But it works, obviously, somewhere.
No, absolutely. Well, Ice Cream Man's an anthology. A lot of the books that are running, but DC and Marvel got rid of their anthologies.
Even then, they still had to have one complete issue, 24 pages, where if they just focused on 6 good pages a month and they teamed up with other creators, that's a business model that can be something.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're too busy chasing that Marvel DC dragon.
I think that
people forget that Marvel and DC are the friends of the independents. The people that come in to get Marvel and DC books, if they're not picking up enough, that's when they see at a comic shop that's carrying new books, that's when they see the independents that are on the shelf and decide to pick them up. If they weren't coming for a Marvel or DC book, a lot of these people would never experience an independent book. So they are a friend of the independent in a symbiotic way.
And I do think we need to consider, and I advocate for this a lot, so just let me preface this by saying I think we need to consider this. When I run crowdfunding campaigns, we just run that cover that one time. And then whenever we go to something else, we do a reprint with a different cover. I think that chasing after the manga model is a very viable option. I think that what I would like to see happen is with the digital aspect of that, have one particular cover style, and then when it goes to, say, your mainstream distribution, comic and bookstores, have a separate cover specifically for that. If you're going to put out something through a particular chain like Dollar General or, God help you, Walmart, and I say that because the Walmart return policy is abysmal, just my opinion.
Yeah.
Having those different cover options so that when people are like, hey, I know this book, I have this book, but I don't have this cover. And so if you are a cover collector, if you are a completionist, it kind of scratches that itch. But by the same token, it acclimates the audience in those particular locations, whether it's online whether it's in the comic shop, whether it's, in Barnes and Noble or at the gas station on the spinner rack, where they have that particular same look to them, that same particular distinct difference between your venues. So for example, if I'm taking and I'm doing Tibby and I've got my cover for the direct market, I am not flaunting a whole lot of stuff on the front there. It's risque, certainly, but if I'm selling it at Adam and Eve, right, I can go full adult, full blown cover option. If I'm selling 47 Furious Tales and I'm going to have it in someplace where it's like at Walmart or Kroger or something like that, I don't want a blood spattered cover. But if I'm going to be putting that out through vending machines that are located alongside with, other titles, I can go as full grimdark as I want. Keeping that in mind, that might add a little bit of expense to you, maybe another $500 or $1,000 investment per cover, depending on what you're paying. But I think that as you open your market wider, it's just a normal cost of doing business.
Well, I think that comic books are there's the huge part of comic books today that wasn't a part of comic books 20, 30 years ago as much as it is today. And that is the collectability aspect. Most comic book buyers were readers, 30, 40 years ago. Now they're collectors, I think. I think that has a big change. And I think that collectability aspect, low print runs, not oversaturating the market on covers, picking the right covers for the right reasons, like you're saying, is a very important thing. And I think that also it's showing that is working now in the crowdfunding area of comics. And Swagg, welcome to the show, brother. It's good to see you. Swagg, we've been talking about this a lot lately on
fellow indie creator.
Shows. Yeah, the crowdfunding market is becoming a big part of this collectible world, and you have to foster that. You have to grow that. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. I mean, I've been, watching the show when you guys started, so I've been enjoying the conversation. And there's so many things I wanted to introduce into the convo, especially because later on this week, I'm actually going to go to Comics Pro, which I bet Dennis and Jesse are going to be interested to hear about my experiences going there. Yeah. But I'm open-minded. I'm going to have a lot of great conversations, but I wouldn't be shocked if I came away disappointed. And I think what I mean by that is, I'm going there as sort of a creator, also going with 24/7 Comics, who, if you guys know Carl and stuff, we have a bunch of titles. We're talking about this. We do crowdfunded books. So we're going in to talk to retailers about like, hey, how can we be good partners for you guys? Or how can we, sure, we want you to carry our books, or it's like, hey, I wrote Sanity. I'd love you guys to, bring it in store. But like, I think I can even do more for you than that, in a lot of different ways. Maybe content is one of them. Like I just did a video where I went to, shout out to Red Hood Comics. He opened up a comic store in Las Vegas, and I went to his shop.
The other Red Hood.
Yeah, another Red Hood. And he told me, he's like, dude, like I had like 100+ people say that they came to my store because they saw your video. And I'm like, not to my own home, but it's like, yeah, I know. Every time I do a video that does something like about a comic store or whatever, the store owner will always tell me like, hey, it was awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And I'm happy to do it, and it's nothing on me. It's like, it's your guys' store. You guys have the great business. I'm just putting a camera to it. But anyways, I say all that to say this, which is we're in a world where you have to think outside the box, and you have to like bring value to each other and start to do more things. And retailers, like, it's comic creators, you got to create your own comic book, but hey, you also got to go network with the retailers. And like, if you're not Todd McFarlane or Daniel Warren Johnson, like it's not good enough to just be like, cool, I write Iron Man. Okay, cool. Like you have to like be an ambassador. You got to like be an entrepreneur. You got to start a YouTube channel. You got to like have more interviews and do the whole thing and just like bring the whole package and get active in your own.
I don't think that people in the industry realize how important this part of the industry has become. And when I say this part, I mean the content creation side for the industry. And we talk about it all the time, Swagg, where there's this thing that happens, especially if you got a little bit of charisma, if you're okay on camera, if you can talk well. Not everybody's got that down, and I get that. And a lot of people, you can learn how to do that, but it's becoming easier and easier because we use this so much in our of other parts of the of our regular life. But if you're able to come on these shows like this show or Swagg's open mic shows or any type of content creation world, do interviews, people will endear themselves to you as well, to your product and to you, which is a very important thing.
They want to
see
back
who you
you, the person, not just alter your comic, but and the the story you and the world you built, but like they want to back you, and similarly on the retail side, like they want the product, but also like if you're cool and they feel emotionally connected to you because like here, I watch Dennis, I watch Jesse, I want to go to their store and support their business. Like that's a part of it too. So I think that you just have to do that more.
It's authenticity. And I think now we've gotten to the point where the normies can smell fakes.
Yeah.
Like in the chat over here, they were talking about shills. I hear a lot of people in the online space, podcast space going, people want to hear what I think. And you better be telling them exactly what you think, or they'll smell that you don't think that way. And they'll immediately call you a shill.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I want to point out, and Swagg, you're not doing enough videos. You need to step it up by like 90% and do like 30 a week. But here's the thing. Here's what happens with Swagg. And I did write an article about Brian and Swagg in the new Overstreet. So there will be an article about those two guys. But I will look at Swagg's intro and go, who the F would even care about that? Why would someone watch that? And after I'm done watching the whole thing, I'm like, oh yeah, I never thought about that, because in the industry, we're not allowed technically to think that wide. We're in this tunnel vision of this is how the industry works. This is how you do it. And if you think outside the box, you're going to lose what's going on. Yeah, whatever it is. And Swagg brings that, and it gives Swagg that opportunity to talk about stuff that we would never even think about talking about. And if we did think about it, we would say, wow, why would I talk about that? So that's something that comes with being consistent with Swagg and MA shows he does.
Well, let me just say this from Emmett's standpoint. Emmett, you started doing your shows.
Yeah.
Those are 100% your thoughts.
Yep.
And that content is needed. It's been needed for a long time. It's actually what made me start doing my shows again.
Yeah, it was a long. I was doing them for many years with nobody watching.
Yeah.
And I still made them. I didn't care. But, it just took talking about the right subject that got people to watch, and then they enjoyed the other stuff too. So, but I think long term, I'm a real long term. I know look how gray I am. Like, how much longer do I have? But yeah, I think very long term, and I think the industry cannot survive without readers. Collectors is great, but collectors get tired and they move on to different collections, and you have to worry about saturation when you're talking about moving so many people onto Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Fund My Comic, all those other ones. There becomes a point where there's too many on there, right? And then when ones start to fail, it becomes another domino effect of like, 20 of them didn't reach their amount and they didn't get their thing. And then people are like, maybe crowdfunding is not that interesting. Long-term wise,
it becomes
cream rises to the top, right?
It becomes that back section of Diamond in the previous catalog. It really does.
If we can't get kids, new generations to read comics in comic form, we won't be around in 20 years. Because the old men, it's like Dennis, you do albums, right? How many people do you have coming in looking for swing albums? All those people are dead. Well, the hipsters, there's a few hipsters that are doing swing events, but a lot less, and the value of those albums come down, and Elvis value is coming down because those collectors die. Guess what? We're aging out. That's the biggest problem, and the youth are not picking it up. And
I think you're wrong on that, Emmett. I think you're wrong on that because
comics?
not believe it or not, on comics too.
I was gonna say, well, Emmett, I totally agree with you that we need readers, but I think just between us, like one of the most disappointed times I've ever had when I did my YouTube channel is when I made my first Marvel Rivals video. And I was talking about how excited I was because I was like, this is the way to get readers. And how many people were like, this is stupid, Swagg, you're wrong, this game is irrelevant. But I was like, I can't believe it. I'm like, this is what everyone yells about. Hey, we need more readers. I was like, this
real
is your
marketing.
ticket.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you.
Well, and I'll back that up for a second though, because we had a 12-year-old boy that came in and made his mom buy a $12 Jeff the Land Shark book off of my Marvel Rivals section of my store.
Well, it also shows how disconnected the industry is compared to the buying market, right? That they're also disconnected, because if it was me, and I don't understand why Marvel, they should be doing more than just the variants they're doing. You know, like I know they're doing these facsimile covers all the time. Half of them don't make sense. If they should be doing facsimiles of these first skins of these variants. That would make sense, right? There's no rhyme or reason sometimes to these facsimiles they're doing, and they just feel like cash grabs. But they could totally do some cool stuff and do a facsimile on the interior of that, the first appearance of that skin, and then have a new homage cover done by a new artist. You don't have to do a facsimile cover. Don't even print that. Just print the interiors, put a new cover on there. People will buy it, and then they could see, okay, that's where this skin came from. The
comics that you could get skins in, the Fortnite books of the DC, I had so many calls on that. I had to triple my order for those because I had so many people who'd never read a comic who just wanted those skins. But when comics sit around, people start reading them.
Right. But when you just said, you saved yourself at the end. Okay. I was going to say, because you literally went against what you said, but at the end you said if it sits around, they finally read it.
They pick it up.
Yeah, we are in a world where we need to stop thinking about monthlies, quarterlies, and yearlies. We need to think about today what we can do, because we have all the components to do what we have to do. When I started live streaming on YouTube, my YouTube shows, which go back to like 2009, I stopped doing it because no one was talking about comics. Mm-hmm. Right. And so we've evolved to where now everybody is comfortable talking about comics. They have an opinion. People were afraid back in the day, back in the forums, like when you were in a forum in the late 90s and early 2000s, even then where you weren't visually in front of people, you were very hesitant to write something. Oh my gosh, what do they then think? Now, none of us don't care what people think. Right. This is our opinion. If you like it, great. If not, go watch another show, because there's so many options out there.
I got kicked out of 3 of those comic forums for retailers because I was the only one.
Yeah, I kicked you out of one. So just so you know. Yeah. I was like, who the hell is this guy, man? Comic book reviews, or I forgot what it was called, but
it's sad that if
you learn on a live show.
Right. The YouTube channels, there's some guys that are really good. They've got charisma. They're good content on what's the guy's Comic Philosopher, his show, and he reviews comics, gives really, and I'm talking about like college professor level reviews on comic books. And he's fairly popular, but like not like some other shows, and it doesn't move the needle on some books. He's like, he'll come on and say, this book is number 1. It's the best read of the week. And it doesn't sell a book, but you say that, oh, this has got a cover of
Well-
somebody from Rivals, and that book flies off the shelves.
Well, and that was what I used to say about the Eisner Award. I would see all of these books get the Eisner Award, and I would look at my sales for those books, and I would look at my sales for the trade paperbacks, and I was just
Very
like,
good point.
Who said
yeah,
Yeah,
How-
it's like,
sing with the
what?
Ringos, sing
When
with
did
all of
that
them.
come out? Yeah,
yeah. And I'm just like, this Eisner didn't make it sell.
yeah.
You know, it wasn't so good that it sold off my shelf, but apparently everybody liked it, and
It's
they
usually
farted
good for
in
the
the glass. And,
creator.
Yeah. You know,
It's good for the
Swagg,
creator.
Swagg, let me ask you this question. What's the shelf life, if there's a shelf life of one of your videos?
A shelf life.
Yeah.
If it's a video that is like, hey,
Evergreen.
this topic that happened this week, I'd probably say it's like 4 days. You know,
Oh, wow.
4 days.
4 days.
Yeah, I mean, or there
Well,
might
you
be
have evergreen
more-
stuff. You have lots of
Yeah.
evergreen stuff, brother.
You could do evergreen stuff, yeah. Like, I mean, you have stuff like that too, where it's like, general how to press a book. Like that's going to last for as long as people need that resource. But like, yeah, if I'm talking about such and such hot book of the week, that's good for like 3-4 days, and then maybe a few stragglers who get it a week later will watch it. But you know, the peak of it is over.
So Swagg, what are you hearing? So you're talking to these retailers, you're at the shows.
I will
You're
be
at
going.
the shows. You're going to new stores. You're doing lots of videos. You're Mr. Famous. What are they saying? No, but what are they saying?
What are they saying not on camera?
Right.
Like dealers, like say the vintage dealers. I think a lot of them.
Oh.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'd say
Tell
a
us what
lot
you're-
of them. Yeah, a lot of them. I think they're in it for the long term. So I think for them, it's like they're sold. But there's definitely this slightly less confident air about them. Now there's a lot of dealers who, they've made their money. Like at this point, it's really like a reason for them to get out of the house, and so I think that they're not sweating, and those are the ones that are fine keeping their 2021 price tag on a book. And if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, who cares? Like they're fine. But I think some other ones have definitely asked me like, hey, what do you think? Like, what do you really think here?
What about
They kinda
all the
lean in.
comic bros who came in and right after COVID?
Yeah.
What are you talking about
So
those guys.
I definitely think those ones are concerned. Well, it's interesting because where we go from here, as far as like that side of the hobby and that side of the industry, I definitely am not as convinced that the movies can, save vintage comics in any sort of way. I haven't been convinced about that for a long time, especially coming off of movies like Captain America 4, which I want to talk about that movie for sure isn't the worst movie that has ever been made in the history of Marvel movies, but yeah, it's bad. Like it's to me, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that you are a professional creative team working at the highest level. Like you guys are, this is the equivalent of, professional football. You guys are in the Super Bowl. You're doing a Marvel movie, like, and that's the performance you left on the field. Like that's just not
the Kansas City Chiefs of Marvel movies.
No, it was. But here's the problem, and again, it goes to that disconnect. There's this weird disconnect that I never realized how bad it was until the last couple of years. That a lot of these guys, they have no clue. And the people that are writing the movies have no clue, and the directors and the producers don't even look at the source material. And we've been screaming for years that the source material is good enough. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that was created in the 60s and 70s, it's kind of can be cheesy when you go back and read it now. But for the most part, the character and who the character is and what the character looks like and the continuity of the character is good enough to create these mega fans over, generations, that you don't need to change everything.
Can I bring up one of the news flashes of the day?
Sure.
James Gunn shares that he wants to do a Harley Quinn Elvira movie. Where the hell does that fit in? Where does that building the universe, or is that just the biggest pandering move that Marvel or Warner Brothers and DC could make?
Yeah.
Well,
she was in House of Secrets, was a DC. You know, she was in the House of Secrets for a long time.
Yeah. What was the last time somebody came in and asked for that, Emmett?
Elvira books sell all the time, but you know I don't have it.
Hey, do you guys forget who you're on a show with? You're on a show with the biggest Elvira
I know.
fan in the
Yeah,
world.
he's going to get a giant stack of them.
Explain to you, if you're not selling Elvira books, what the heck are you thinking? It's one of the biggest markets out there. I have probably about 100 of every copy. I sell about 60, 70 copies a week. It's all about turn rates. But here's the thing about movies that I'm going to tell you from the outside looking in. What do you guys think on this DS? What is the percentage of comic book fans that watch a movie versus just a basic fan? And do they pander to the 85%, or did they pander to the 15% that knows comics?
It's a 1 in 9. It's a 1 in 1,000, Jesse. And all you got to do is look at the numbers. $1 billion is made when Marvel was making great movies. They made $1 billion. That's 100 million people giving the movie theater owners $10 to see a movie. During that entire period, there's not one comic book that broke 1 million, let alone the 100,000 they were actually making. That's 1 in 1,000 people touching new comic books, touching the source material.
Yeah.
But when it's go ahead, Swagg. Go ahead.
Well, I might stray the conversation a different way, but like, you know, I think it's interesting because as someone who like has done screenwriting in the studio system and all that, and has written on properties that I don't know the source material that well, like I'm of the opinion that I don't think the writers and directors have to be historians of Marvel comic books in order to make Marvel movies. I really don't think they have to. They have to respect it. They have to say like, hey, I'm being offered this great opportunity and I want to make sure that the people who do love this stuff, like we're going to do it right for them. But like, I'm not a historian. Like, that's fine. There's people that work at Marvel that are historians that you can be like, hey, would Captain America ever do this? And they'd be like, yes. And they're like, okay, cool. Like, so you just have to have good craft. But the problem is like, at this point, the people that they're getting is like, they're just not talented enough. And not just talented enough to like execute a movie, but execute a movie within a studio structure that has a tremendous amount of pressure and multiple voices coming in and a lot of gatekeepers and a lot of people that want their own aspects to it and data-driven people that say like, you know, if you don't have a joke every 10 seconds, you know, the audience will lose you. And it's like, you have to be able to fight those battles as the writer or the director and say like, no, that's stupid. We're not doing that. Like, and that's hard. That's like the hard thing to do as well. So, and the James Gunns of the world and the Russo brothers of the world, they can do that because they have the clout to do that. But, you know, if you're just a Joe Schmo director who has the opportunity to, you know, do a Marvel movie, you get pushed around. And so it's a tough thing. And I don't think that they have to, you know, go to the source material as much. They just have to be able to do that. Now, my one fear is this, though, to your point, Dennis, talking about Elvira and the collab and stuff. I can see this being the new Marvel and DC Shield, which is them just doing everything from the comics and them just being like, no, literally every shot is from a panel in a comic book. And we're just going to have like moving comic book. And that's the movie they're going to give you. And what we'll find is that it's not really going to work. You have to make some.
No. But so Dick,
they just need to hire all the writers from their cartoons.
Yeah.
Because their cartoons kill.
That's true.
But those cartoons only sell 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 units at max. So that's not going to make the box office.
That's in media, but if they stream it and then sell toys off of it, it's all about the intellectual property to sell other shit.
Right.
Richard Donner, when he made Superman, he had a sign above the door of his office that said verisimilitude. Okay. And then he had two young guys start working for him about 10 years later. And those two young guys were Kevin Feige and Jeff Johns. And they learned that. Now, I'll tell you this. Kevin Feige, the early years, he took that to heart. Not one of those movies, verisimilitude means the core of the character is always the beacon that you follow. And that's what got us Superman. And that's what got us the MCU. You're allowed to go here, there, or wherever, but as long as that beacon still sends you on course, that's how you follow it. Jeff Johns did that 100% when he was writing comic books.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
When he took over Green Lantern, he hit the local comic book store and he bought every Green Lantern issue he could to figure out how to work into this, how to work around it, how to get. And that Green Lantern Rebirth was the book that made me start reading Green Lantern again. So those two guys, now it's when Hollywood gets involved that they take them off track. It's when the CEO tells Kevin Feige, no, you totally have to do this. You totally have to do this. And he has to do it. That's where you ruin a Kevin Feige who learned first principles, verisimilitude.
Yeah, but isn't it's not a director's job to sell comics?
No, but Jesse, if you keep the core of the character in mind, then the comic books are always going to follow what Hollywood's making.
It's about merchandise. They are more focused on merchandise. I'll give you a prime example. So my sponsors of my store and my brand, Paramount Pictures, Lionsgate, and we just picked up Showtime. So they're the sponsors of my store and everything I do. So forever, I get the disc to give away during my shows. They send me a ton of stuff. So I got an email yesterday saying people don't want these anymore. What they want is digital codes. So we're going to send you digital codes now. So I don't know why I brought that up, but at the end of the day, I think it's to sell merchandise and not specific comics. That's why Price has said the first time.
But the problem with that is that just like the comic industry is eating itself, the movie industry is eating itself, because they'll just keep putting out crap movies just to sell merchandise, and nobody will want to go see the movies anymore, and then the merchandise won't even matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's how comics is. Like, right? We got the big two, DC and Marvel, who most people in the industry have come out and said they have to be doing good stuff in order for the industry to really prosper. You know, Mark Miller talking about it on his thing when last year when he had his little powwow. It was very interesting for him to say the big creators need to go back to DC and Marvel every couple of years and actually work on something important there. It needs to continue going, because if they're not doing good, the rest of the world is the rest of the comics industry if they're doing good, the rest of the comics industry is doing better. And the problem with that is that they at DC and Marvel, it seems like they don't care, because they keep putting out books written by horrible writers for 70% of it. They don't know, they have no clue what they're doing, picking the covers they do for the ratios and the covers that are supposed to be on there. They just throw whatever they can get on there who meets the deadline the fast enough. And it doesn't matter if the story is shit. If you can meet the deadline for me to get it out there fast enough, then that's all we care about, padding those numbers. And that's ruining it. I mean, it's become a cover, because of that, it's become a cover collecting industry. We really only have, from the big publishers, you know, at any given time, 5 to 10 books that people are really excited talking about, reading.
Well, let me ask you this. What sells more, cover A, B, C, D, or E?
Well, I don't know at this
and
point.
In long-term collecting, A covers are always better.
Yeah.
Well, just think of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's New 52 Batman #1.
So then why even print the B, C, D, E, or F anymore? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Because it's just to get the retail. Once again, it goes back to what we said last
numbers.
week. There's only one customer that the publishers care about, and it's the suckers that are 3 here on this dais.
Well, that's
we do like direct to consumer too. We do, I promise. But we have to
present
keep
company excluded. Indie comics.
We have to keep our guys in mind.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. So Swagg's going to Comics Pro. Emmett, you had a issue with Comics Pro last year. Did you ever get to one of them?
I didn't. This would be the new one, but they put it in California. I think the deepest conspiracy is that it's because they knew I wouldn't go.
Well,
No,
what's so funny is some people don't say California. They just say Glendale, and they're like, hey, Jesse, I'm going to be stopping by to see you. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm in Glendale, Arizona.
Yeah, the last time they had it in Pittsburgh, I wanted to go, and they did some stuff. Oh, you didn't make it in time, all this other stuff. When I had emails to back up that I wasn't in time. And then they got a new president who said, hey, that really didn't happen. We weren't gatekeeping. We invite you to come without a membership to the next one. And I didn't get a new email for this one, but I also, I'm not flying out to Glendale, California for some, for a lot of the dealers that I know that they go for the variants.
So let me
pay for their trip.
I'll sum it up. And Swagg, you tell me if I'm totally off base after you go to it. It's going to be a whole bunch of people going, remain calm, all is well, remain calm. We've got everything in hand. We're talking to a lot of people. Keep giving us your membership money, and we'll get out of this.
I can't understand.
I will report.
I can't understand can't understand what they're giving for their money, other than this one event, which you have to fly to, get hotels for, right? I don't understand what my money is.
I know there are some publishers though that are definitely using this to announce some major things.
Yep.
So Ignition, Distillery, Bad Idea.
But a third. It's
I'm
only
actually
a
going to
third
an
of the
Ignition.
retailers.
But here's the problem with going to these meetings in general. Diamond Summits back in the day, Comics Pro, pre-2010, it was cool. Why? Because you didn't know what happened until you talked to someone. This is what's going to happen. And I'm not saying Swagg's going to do this, but something's going to be announced, and you're going to see a video 2 seconds later pop up on your phone, on Instagram. It's going to show up on Bleeding Cool. Hey, here's what happened in hour 1. So as a retailer, as a store owner, are you offsetting your costs by not being in your store selling books? Or is it worth it to go to an event that is 5 days long and you're shaking enough hands? Anyone?
They only have like 500 members, right? So
Less,
if
I
there's 1,200.
I heard a lot less.
I'm really looking forward to hearing. I know, Swagg, you're about to say you're going to the Ignition Press launch party. I'm really looking forward to hearing what Philip and crew have going for Ignition Press. That's, to me, that's one of the things I'm really interested in hearing. I really like, Philip and what he's done in the past, and I'm very interested to hear what's coming. So that's going to be interesting.
But when we had Philip on this
hard,
show,
no matter how much talent you have.
Philip's not in a hurry to get this done. He wants to do it right, and doing it right means not doing it right now.
But it's kind of the same way AWA came around. They were around at conventions for a year before we started to see books.
Exactly.
Some of the best creators, artists, writers, and what have they?
Well, let me tell you something about AWA real fast. Don't pick a iconic wrestling program from the 70s and 80s. That's where they weren't thinking. They called it AWA, right? Which is actually based out of Vegas. But there is a lot of pre-marketing done, and some of it is the name. Do people get it? When you look at that Ignition thing and you see the key there, they are looking at marketing and how do we get in front of people just with our logo. And if our logo gets us to the dance to shake one person's hand at this event, then it's a success. They have to fend off what's going on today with what they're doing in the future as a publisher.
Dennis, you know what I'm most interested about with the companies like, say, Ignition and all this stuff is I want to know how many of these people, and we're not going to get the answers, but I want to know how many of these companies and publishers are pitching business models that is actually talking about the long-term success of their comics line, rather than we're going to create these titles that are hype with these great creators, and really it's going to get optioned by Netflix, which
Yep.
to me is like, listen, I live in that space. I'm like, yes, sure, there's going to be a big winner. Someone's going to write The Boys, and that'll be a hit, and great. The one comic of the 5,000, like,
Yep.
hit the grand slam.
They're all chasing that Hollywood movie check.
They're all chasing it, and it's not even. I don't even know if that's the ecosystem you want to chase.
Right.
You know, given
Sam,
the
is
direction
that
of the movie.
in your business percentages of when you do a book? Is there any percentage in there that says, oh, this could possibly be a TV show, a movie, or XYZ?
Not really. I write the stories I want to write, to tell the stories I want to tell, and hopefully people will enjoy. Now, in the back of my mind, there are some goals I have long term, particularly with regards to animation. I am really sorry about that. One of my artists is lighting me up at the moment, so sorry about the beeps.
No worries.
That's fine.
But we got like really cool roughs that just came in, so that was kind of neat. But like, yeah, I'm not really trying to make movies. Not really. I have to confess, I don't write the books to be scripts, right? I write them to be in comic format, or the RPGs to be in RPG format. The short stories or the other things that I write, in that particular mode. If there needs to be a screen adaptation or an animation adaptation or what have you, then you can adapt that bit, because and again, this is from the outside looking in. I've never made a movie, never made a cartoon, but I've seen where people have tried to take and adapt things from novels, from comics. I think we've all seen them when they've done it and it just hasn't worked. Right? They didn't change the script. They didn't, put that in between content. They, hey, there's a chase scene and they only show like 3 quick clips when they're dodging trees or something, instead of actually building out the drama. And, I mean, we had a company that approached us to option one of our titles. The contract they sent us was absolute crap. I guess they didn't expect me to read it, so we kind of chucked it. But, you get that sometimes when you're at NYCC. Someone's like, "Dude, I love this. I want to make a movie." Great, send me your pitch and your contract information, and everything, and then you get crap. So,
Right.
But yeah, the short answer is no, not really. I'm not really planning for revenue on that. I think trying to plan for something that far out is fiscally irresponsible. I'm building Sinopa to leave to my kids one day, so my primary objectives are be cash flow positive to some degree, whether that's $1, $100, $1,000, whatever. Build the IP and make sure that we're doing it in an ethical way, so that the people that I'm working with, we don't have people coming out 20 years later saying, "Oh, Sam screwed us out of a paycheck in 2021," because that kind of wrongdoing always comes out. So I just try and treat people the best I can.
And you know what? It's funny you said that, because as Brian was scrolling through that list, I was like, oh, that was a publisher didn't pay their creators. Oh, there was a publisher that didn't pay their creators.
DC and Marvel don't keep playing
Speaking
visuals on certain.
Do you guys
Rob
know when
Liefeld's just-
Sinopa guys get paid? Are you guys aware of what our payment model looks like?
No.
Okay, so for the titles I write, I pay the guys as the pages are done, right? Leading up to our crowdfunding campaign. So, for example, I just paid Damian Torres for some line art the other day. I'll have some line art tomorrow, right? I'm paying Dakota Erhan to color those. I'll probably pay that. Well, I was going to pay him tonight, but I guess I'll pay him tomorrow because it's almost 11 here. And then they'll get it done, and then we have it. Everyone's paid. Everyone's taken care of. So as the principal, as the owner of the IP, as the owner of the company, the risk on monetizing that falls on me. My people don't have to wait on that. Now, in the beginning, full disclosure, it wasn't like that. The first 2 or 3 RPG books we did on royalty basis. And I learned very quickly that it takes ever for people to make the same amount that they would make on like a page rate basis. And that's when we changed. And so one of the things too that we've done is that whenever in all my contracts, there's a provision in there that at my discretion, I can pay out bonuses to the people who are staffing this project, right? And it's either in direct currency or in merchandise or what have you as a bonus, depending on performance. So when Tibby and her Time Traveling Psychedelic Mushrooms broke even faster than any of the other titles we've released, when we actually became cash flow positive on that title. I went into our digital menu for drive-through and assigned royalties on every digital transaction to the entire team. James Lee, who did the title card, Alexia Veldhausen, who did the editing, Damian Torres, who did the cover art and the line art, and Dakota Erhan. Every single one of them gets a few cents, a nickel, dime, whatever that percentage is on that sales each time they sell. And so it just gradually churns a little more money as they've got more and more titles under the belt. It might be, $20 a month or $50 a month or what have you. But the thing that builds is goodwill with the people I work with.
Trust. Respect.
I have never had someone say that they didn't want to work with Sinopa Publishing again.
Well, that's interesting because Rob Liefeld just put out a tweet that he says, if you are currently working at Marvel or DC, you should be asking for more, better page rates, more control, more promotions for your work. If you don't ask, you will be left behind as the other guy who did ask moves ahead. Very interesting. We know he's mad at Marvel, but listen, this is another thing that we've been hearing from creators across the board is that they're not paying. They're not paying artists. They're not paying writers. Their page rates are crap. And why would you want to work for them if you're not being paid? Other than just to say, I know a lot of these creators want to just be able to say, hey, I want to be able to say I've been published by Marvel. I understand that, but even at some point, your work is worth your time is worth more than what they're willing to pay.
I was just on Billy Tucci's show last week, name drop, and he I asked him, I go, what was your page rate when you did your last book at DC Comics? And I was stunned because if you saw, it was Billy Tucci's Lost Battalion.
Yeah,
I forget what. And he put so much work into that. And that was his baby. That was his, and they paid him $365 a page for that.
Most guys aren't getting that now.
Yeah.
And most guys are not getting that now.
Yeah, I just want to clarify before we move forward. When Brian was saying not getting paid, what he was saying was not getting paid their fair share of what value, not they weren't getting paid. So
yes,
but DC is not paying people their residuals for small guys who we're going to put out this book, this big omnibus, and you're supposed to get paid on that. It was in your contract. They're like, sue us. Like, what do we owe you? $50? You're going to put a lawsuit for $50? They're just not sending the checks out.
Well, see, that's like with our interior page budget right now is not where I would like to be, right? We have, I'm very transparent about this. We've had this all over our social media. Our current interior page budget is $250 for everything. That's our line art, our coloring, and our lettering. That is not a lot. And it's more than what we were paying 2 years ago. The fact is that we depend upon crowdfunding to finish the last leg of getting those productions in. Now, actually, I hate to keep going back to Tibby, guys, but this is a good example of this. Like, where my next goal to reach for interior budgets is at the $400 mark, and that basically, with an average page man-hour load of 16 hours, that comes out to $25 an hour, right? Which is not a lot for highly skilled professionals, right? But it's enough that you're not necessarily having to work at the gas station down the street either.
Not Buc-ee's, is it?
Right. But getting back,
if it's Buc-ee's, then I'm in. But just to clarify,
just to get the discount, right?
One of the things we're doing for our next crowdfunding is we have a benchmark in that if we can hit that in funding, then the team will get bumped to that $400 per interior page calculation. We're just throwing all of what would have been stretch goals in from the get-go, and that's what we're trying to hit to get that. And that goes back to goodwill and treating your people right. It's about leading from the front and taking on the responsibilities you need to take on.
Yep. Yeah. So, the hard thing I feel like, kind of going off that, Sam, and like even what Rob Liefeld said, is it's like, and this might be an unpopular and kind of maybe harsh thing to say, but like in comics, sometimes the math doesn't math. Like,
right. Right. You have
There's
to
just not the book, the individual comics just don't produce the value that would generate a sustainable living wage for a lot of creators.
Right.
Like it's there's the top 1% of the, Daniel Warren Johnsons and Todd McFarlane's, and then there's every other creator. And that's just like kind of how the nature of entertainment fields are. And so it's one thing for Rob Liefeld to say like, yeah, demand more money. And it's like, well,
if the money's not there,
I don't know if that only works, for only like 5 people in the industry that could maybe do that. And then everyone else, if it's probably just best that they leave Marvel and DC. You get it on your resume, and then you create your own IP. You become like Sam is doing, or you become like Mark Spears or whoever, and that's what you have to do.
It's important. It is important. The money from the print version, the money is in the books for me, right? For the digital version, good God, the money's in every digital download. So just for anyone who's looking, guys, for the love of God, please avail yourself of digital format. Okay, please. And I'll use Tibby on this. Tibby was released. We fulfilled the campaign in October, right before NYCC 2023, right? And we have since then sold a little over 3,300 digital downloads. Now, I'm really sorry about that beeping in the background. That's Damien. That's Damien Torres.
I want to think that maybe part of that is that they don't have to have that book lying around their house if they have small kids, or they don't want their wife to see they're reading it. I mean, I think that type of book sells really well digitally, but
47 Furious Tales does about the same numbers too. It really is just a remarkable thing to see it come out. And Tibby, while it's pretty risque, is not what everyone thinks it is at first blush.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy what we do now. Some people will watch a YouTube review before they buy the comic to actually read it, right?
Yeah.
We're in that world. I'm going to give you a prime example. I just hit, while we're talking, 160 million views on my Google page.
Congratulations.
Right? That's in 2 years, 160 million views on people saying, before I go to that restaurant, I want to see what Jesse says about that restaurant, instead of just going and eating the food and making your own decision.
Well,
so we are in a world that not just digitally and virtually, we are actually getting away from actually reality of enjoying that meal or not joining it. But
and
that's the
despite
world
your
we're
love
in.
of Sizzler, they still trust it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
back to what Swagg was saying earlier. The reason this movie is failing, Captain America, whatever it's called, Justice
New
for
World
All.
Order.
Brave New World.
Yeah, New World Order.
Brave New World.
Brave New World. The online people savaged this for an entire weekend. That's all it took. It's the first Marvel movie. Actually, Eternals took me a couple weeks, but it's the first Marvel movie in recent times that I haven't seen. And
Everybody that's come into my store
they're-
has said they liked it. Everybody that's come to my store said
Which,
they liked it.
listen, that blew me away.
It's a really interesting thing about that. And it kind of goes back to earlier in the convo when I was saying, like, as a comic creative now, you got to like go out, you got to, talk to retailers, you got to be that ambassador, blah, 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 all this stuff. I went to USC film school. That's my origin of going to film school. And in the class called 290, everyone who goes to USC film school has to take this class. It's your first filmmaking class. The number one rule, how this class was structured at that time, I'll date myself, that was 2004, something like that. How that class was structured was the professor would say, you would make a movie and then you would play it in front of the class. And you as the filmmaker were not allowed to say anything. The class would watch the movie and they would react to your film and they would say what they thought. And you couldn't say anything. And the thesis behind that was that, one day when you make a real movie, you're not going to be in the theater to be able to explain to the audience like what you could do. Now, go with me on this though. I think we live in a world now where you actually can do that. You actually, as the filmmaker, can get ahead of what the movie what the audience is going to think about your movie, what questions they have, their investment in it. And it's part of the job to be that ambassador and explain your thought process. And if anything, try to sell them and say, hey, I'm making this for you guys. I'm so proud to be a part of Captain America. I really hope I don't let you down. I really wanted this to be an awesome spy thriller. I hope you guys are going to really love it. Jason Bourne is my favorite franchise of all time. You guys are going to get that. And so you have to do that legwork. And if
Tom
you don't
Cruise
do
did that for
the audience
Maverick.
will. Right. And if you don't do that, you run the risk of the audience tearing you apart. Or if you do the worst part, which is dismiss the fans.
Yeah.
Then you're really
does it for all of his films.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and keep in mind we have the ability to do that. Again, I'll say this again: business is run by the people that show up, and it's not show up once a month; it's show up daily. I tell Brian the secret to Facebook. People always ask me the secret to Facebook. The secret to Facebook every day is to wake up and wish everybody happy birthday. That's the first thing you should be doing, because sometimes that's your only one connection to that person is on their birthday, but they will remember that.
That's why insurance agencies send out birthday cards.
Yeah.
Same thing with car lots. Car lots do that around here too.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that eBay does now. When I get an offer for a lower price on one of my items, it says in the offer, repeat customer, and I will take a lesser offer than I was willing to take from a repeat customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
What's this pause?
Here's
Topic.
I was being uncool and actually looking at the count for the viewers. There are 113 people watching just on the YouTube channel. I just was curious, and
there's only 30 likes. You lazy bastards.
I think that also transfers to what Swagg was saying to everywhere, right? Like the reason why you're saying that you could do that is it's so easy to engage your viewers or your fans or the people that are coming to see this film now with social media, with content creation, and you could do it in very smart ways. And so can the publishers, these publishers, DC and Marvel. They don't utilize this at all. They don't send some type of PR person that at Marvel that jumps on these shows to go, oh, this is why we're doing it. This is why we're doing it. This is why we're doing it. And that would help immensely. That's why I think that it's the reason that shows like this, where it's a safe space where creatives can, not only just creatives, but professionals, publishers, we have publishers come on here all the time, and they're able to talk open about this stuff and say why they do this. And when they do that, the buyers are endeared to them. Like, I don't know how many people I've had, and I told Nick this, so I'm gonna, I told him that I have so many people that reach out to me, industry people that say, it's really cool to be able to see, Nick Barucci, publisher at Dynamite, come on a show and explain why he does what he does with his covers and his variant covers, and to talk to the people who are saying, we don't like this, and he comes on very respectfully and says, okay, this is why we do it. Same thing with the retailers. We have multiple retailers that come on all the time to talk, this is why we do it. And here's the other thing, Sam. You said that being able to go and ask other people, okay, why do you do this? How did you do this? Is another important thing that's right in there, that's built right in there. Give, like Dennis always says about Gary Reed, give information freely, because it's going to help not only the industry as a whole, it's going to help your relationships. It's going to just make everything better, in my opinion, when you do that. And I don't get why some of the biggest money makers in this industry don't do that.
Right. I think there is a gotcha factor that a lot of these guys look at.
Yes.
When I was a big shot with Nordstrom, and they would say, "Oh, okay, you got an interview with GQ or whatever it is." It wasn't like I went and did that interview with GQ. They sat me down. I sat in a circle, and they hit me with like 9, 10 questions every second. How do you answer? Oh, no, don't say that. Don't say this. And so I think a lot of people think in that way in the YouTube realm. I think the difference is with this particular show, and this is nothing against Swagg at all or Brian, is me and Dennis are in the industry. So when they come, we're comic book store owners, right? So they know that we're going to ask them comic book owner questions, and we kind of know what to ask them. And I hope you guys don't take that the wrong way.
Well, and we don't accept bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
And we know enough of the back end that we don't accept bullshit from
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why. And again, this isn't set as a traditional thing to do. How you market, how you promo. There are publishers that still don't have a basic Facebook page, right? And so that's what we're dealing with. And Swagg is right. When he kind of whispered over and said, well, I kind of got this deal going on, a lot of these guys focus, and when I say focus, is beyond 50% is can they get that deal in the movies or wherever XYZ.
Here's
you know, Brian, I feel
go
like
ahead.
I just think that a lot of the, whatever you call them, Marvel Studios, the film side or the publishers or whatever, a lot of them are not as in touch as you would just think they are. And even if they're trying, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, even if they are trying to connect with the fans or readers or audiences or whatever, I'm not sure that they can really tell what the right channels and avenues to connect are. I think a lot of times you see them trying to connect, or they'll go on shows and maybe they think, hey, if I go on an interview on comicbook.com, like that'll penetrate,
right,
you know, to the people that need to read it. And it's like, I mean, I'll just, you know, pump you up. Like, I feel like if I was a current, you know, floppy comic writer or publisher or editor, I would much rather be getting on the Beyond Wednesdays YouTube channel than some random comicbook.com article, you know, or CBR article. Like I know your YouTube channel has more of an effect than those things. And so I think that you know, those, I just don't know if the people in these positions of power, like, know where to look.
So every once in a while, and I'm not telling too many tales out of school here, Brian and Jesse and I will share YouTube videos with each other. And I'm not going to mention who videos we share. But if we watch a show and it just seems so fake, we share it with each other. It's brutal, though. It's brutal. And I'm just like, and it's like how... I love you, Brian, so don't take this with a pinch of salt. It's how I felt 2 years ago watching Brian's shows. I'm just screaming at I'm like, you're saying shit that's not right. You don't know how this really works. And after a year of doing this with Brian's now like, oh, you guys are totally right. I completely had that shit wrong 2 years ago. And same thing, you know, Swagg, your evolution has really changed in 2 years. You know, from doing your own books. You know, there's so much of this stuff that you just have to be real. You can't bullshit the customer anymore.
Right. But the thing is that on like comics.com or Bleeding Cool, they are going to get more eyes. But I think on Brian's show, you get a bigger conversion rate, which it's all about conversion rate.
Exactly.
10 million people can look at an article, and if you get 0 people, it did nothing.
Right.
You know, I think that Brian, this show, like, people, when they see somebody and they talk about their love of comics, how they got into comics, and then what their book is about, the conversion rate's way higher.
Yeah, it's strolling versus scrolling, and that's what I'm always looking at. Is I could scroll down the screen of YouTube at all these comic book shows, but where'd I stop to scroll into Swagg or Emmett's show or a Beyond Wednesday show is more important. I think what hurts, and we're not going to mention these shows, but when these people do go on those shows for the first time, they get nervous to go on a second show. It's like that guy that did the interview with the whole Penguin team. I'm not going to mention his name. They got there. He flew up there. He sat in front of them. And after 3 minutes, they were all looking at him like, does this guy even order books from Diamond?
Right.
And they never did a show after that.
This is a great question right here from Three Rivers Comics. He says, Jesse or Dennis, when was the last time you had a Marvel or DC rep come to your store, contact you, and say, what can we do to help you sell more books? And that goes for any retailer out there.
Hold on a second. Let me go back to my calendar here.
So mine is daily.
Never.
Okay, his is never. Mine is daily.
Never.
Sometimes on Sundays as well. But I have a different model that kind of demands that I talk to a rep from Marvel and DC.
He's not talking. He didn't say talk, Jesse.
What?
Visit your store.
Visit my store. Well, when I have my store, they're in once a week because the rep is in town. So that's probably not a fair question for me. But at the end of the day, you should be the one contacting them and not waiting for someone to come to you.
But Jesse,
I used to talk to him. There's no numbers anymore.
Right.
There's
the thing
nobody
was,
to talk to anymore.
DC used to have a rep that would call me weekly. And, my rep is now, I don't even know where he landed. But, we used to have reps. I had a Marvel rep through Diamond that I would get a call about every 2 weeks. None of that exists anymore.
Mm-hmm.
None.
Man. You got to pull out your Rolodex, and I know that's an old word for many of you.
Who are you going to call? Jeff, I love you, but who the fuck are you going to call at DC?
I then text you the phone numbers so you two get a call whenever you want. You can call those guys and be hooked up. But the point is, I don't allow them not to talk to me. If 2 days goes by, I want to know, why haven't I received anything from you? Why haven't I got an update on my orders? Hey, I'm trying to do this exclusive with you guys. No one's got back to me. So everybody has a different way to conduct business. I'm one of those guys that I want daily contact. If not, I'm going to take my money someplace else. And there's plenty of places to take your money. And Marvel and DC, if you want my particular money, if you want my Elvira money, then you have to keep in contact with me in some shape or form. Just send me an email. I don't care. So as a comic book store owner in Arizona, yes, the rep was in my town. So it probably doesn't count for me in particular. But in general, I can tell you they probably don't contact 99.9% of the stores out there.
Yeah.
And they don't need to. That's the problem.
Yes, they do, Jesse.
Well,
that's why they're in the situation they're in.
But what I'm saying is they feel they don't need to, and they should want to. They shouldn't wait for a letter coming from the president of the company saying, what stores have you talked to today?
It's like when DC moved to Los Angeles. They would only go visit Golden Apple or one of the 3 stores that they wanted to get a sounding board off of. And every one of those guys knew who those reps were.
Yeah, but Dennis, who stood up? I'm going to tell you right now, who stands up in Diamond meetings, regardless of who's on stage, which is you. Why? Because you have to stand up because no one else is going to stand up and say anything. Yep. So my whole point is that question is a very good question. It's a valid question. But in my case, I say, listen, I'm not going to allow that to happen. If I spend a penny with you, then I deserve to have contact with you.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing, and just so you folks know, when you get into Diamond, this is decades ago, right? You weren't supposed to have contact with the publishers. Your question would go through Diamond, and then Diamond would ask Boom, and then Boom would tell Diamond, and then Diamond would tell you that question. So we have evolved into this. Now, it depends on the person and how they want to build their business, right? If you want to be aggressive, awesome. If you want to be passive, awesome. At the end of the day, you got to do what you're comfortable with. And remember, obviously, all of us are our own brands. We're the faces of our brand. We control our destiny and how we want to have contact with people. So,
wait, Dennis, I saw a video of Anthony Mackie and CB Cebulski going to Midtown Comics the other
Midtown
week. You
Comics,
mean they
yeah.
don't do that every single week?
And to all little shops, like I'm only 60 miles above there. They could have made that trip the same day.
Sure. Exactly. So it's what you make of it. It's a great question, but I can tell you honestly, I'm that outlier. Most stores don't even know what a diamond rep is. They have never seen a diamond rep. You guys are talking about Marvel DC. They haven't seen a diamond rep. They haven't seen a lunar rep, and
Jesse,
they haven't seen a penguin rep.
Jesse,
I haven't had a diamond rep in 8 years.
After Dave Hawksworth passed away, did you ever see a diamond rep?
Well, Tim Cartman is in my city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in fact, I had to tell him to stop coming to my store, right? So at the end of the day, again, it's what you make of your brand. And if you want to be in front of a publisher's face, do it. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're then turn around and say, they never contact me, well, that doesn't work that way anymore.
Well, the thing too is like, I think sometimes people get discouraged pretty easily, particularly with the smaller press side of things. Like I can email Steve at Third Eye Comics and I get a response back usually in a day or two.
Yeah.
No problem. No big deal. I can, reach out to Danny Martinez, and he's opening his own shop now after he had been at the Collective in Altamonte Springs, Florida. And then, guys in different locations, you get to a working relationship with someone, but you have to maintain it. You have to, show that you're reliable. Now, when you get to where you have hundreds and hundreds, that becomes untenable and you need staff for that. But I think that the argument there is even as simple as just like a regular exclusively distributed newsletter to your retailers to keep them in the loop. What's cool, tease out stuff that you would normally put into things like your Kickstarter updates or things like that. I think there's a good, strong argument for building those relationships and really getting the feedback from your customers.
Sure. If you look at Brian Pulido, if you're on Brian Pulido's retailer list, not only do you get an email, you get an Instagram, you get a text, you get a phone call, freaking daily, right? And again, it depends on that publisher and what their goals are. There are publishers that don't understand what it takes to stand behind a counter, right, and sell their book amongst the other 110 books that came out that week. So we need that extra edge that says, hey, I know Sam, he puts out great product. That's all you have to say. Why? And I'm going to say that because it makes me important in his daily functions.
Well, and that's what I liked. I think it was 2 weeks ago we had Sam on, right? Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. 2 weeks.
Sam starts rattling off, and I'm not saying this in a pejorative way.
Oh, it's okay.
Sam
I
starts
rattle
rattling off. Yeah, I'm at this head shop. I'm at this whiskey, this liquor store, and this thing and that thing. That's most publishers don't even shout out like that.
I know the name of the guys to call.
Yep.
Right. Well, no, but the thing is you're the publisher at that point. You're wearing the publisher pants. You're actually calling out places where you can find your book to the people listening, to the end user customer. Most of these publishers, like I said, they're only there to sell. They're only at Comics Pro to sell to Comics Pro store members. And here's the thing. I'll say this too. And Jesse, you can chastise me later. I see back when I had the store, when I wasn't in Comics Pro, they would make these huge declarations. Oh, we're doing all this for Comics Pro members. We're doing this. We're having this. We're announcing this at Comics Pro. And every one of those publishers that didn't send me an email afterwards, I'm sorry, you're dead to me.
Well,
because they're taking the lazy road of just selling to Comics Pro. And they're like, well, if I just sell those 500 stores, then I'm good.
I still call shops on my list. I try to call at least 5 a day when I'm in when I have the time for it, and that's usually eating up my lunch hour. More realistically, I'm getting probably about 2 a day the last couple of months. But I basically try and make sure I call everyone on that list at least twice a year if they aren't already carrying my stuff. everyone who is carrying my stuff, every time we get new product, I send them an email. I send them a message on their social media of choice. And if we have time, I'll give them a call. And some guys who aren't carrying our stuff but still maintain pretty regular communications with us, like Glenn at the Comic Book Palace. Glenn's a freaking hoot, man.
I would love to get Glenn on the show.
We've been trying to get Glenn on this show.
He's a hoot.
Tell Glenn we want him on this show.
He's a hoot. I just sent him a couple of art prints that we had test prints done of that we haven't even made available for sale. So they're at his shop, and I think we sent some to Third Eye and a couple others. But it was it's something, man. He has an interesting perspective.
This is how far. This is a perfect
Well, let's
example. Billy,
introduce
how
our
you
new
doing,
guest.
brother?
Hi.
I just wanted to
Can
say
you guys
hello real quick before I
you
get
guys
into
hear
this.
me?
Yes.
All right. So here is something very interesting to me. This is how crazy the disconnect is between in the big two. This was just announced recently that Gwen Stacy is coming back in Marvel. And
yes.
not only is she coming back, she's coming back as Gwenpool, a character, Gwenpool, who was already much beloved, had a massive fan base, loved the character that she was, and for whatever reason, over the last year and a half, Marvel has ruined that the original character, and now they've decided to bring back a character that should never have been brought back. You already have Spider-Gwen, who is basically that same character. You don't need to bring back the original Gwen Stacy, who's been dead forever, and make her the new Gwenpool. What are they thinking? This makes absolutely no sense. And this is what I mean. Gwenpool fans are rabid, and they're angry that that Marvel has ruined their character. You just bring back that regular character and start writing it the way it was meant to be before, and you have a hit on your hands. I don't get it. Anybody?
They're out of touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of know the answer, but I'm then do some investigation before I say it. But yeah, listen.
Let me just say, I'll say the quote first, though. Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, I think any conversation piece a store owner has or someone who's slinging comics, and this isn't my overall answer, but I think they're trying to give it some type of buzz at the counter when you're pitching it to someone. Again, you just have to say Gwenpool and it's then sell, right? It's back in when Deadpool was Deadpool. You only had to say Deadpool, right? Gwenpool wasn't even supposed to be a major character. It was done by fun.
But that's the problem, though.
They also have Lady Deadpool, and that's all they're.
Do you think? I have a question, Brian. Do you think that Marvel and DC just engagement farm? Like, is this what this is?
Here's
Like
what
a
I
test?
think it is. This is what I really think it is, and I could be wrong on this, but what I really think it is, and I know I keep screaming this in like I'm yelling, screaming fire in a theater, but they're so disconnected, and all they care about is meeting those deadlines, that I feel like that they hire these horrible writers, and these writers go, they're just doing whatever they can for easy ideas. And some writer went, hey, Gwenpool originally came out of a joke because they kept on bringing Gwen Stacy back in other universes, and they were making, and there was a joke about her being Gwen being a version of Deadpool, and we could do that. We could bring the original one back and make her the Gwenpool again. It's like, what are you doing? That it has nothing to do with that character, and I think that they're so disconnected, they don't realize why people really love that character to begin with, right?
Right.
It started off as a joke. It kept being a joke, but people fell in love with the character that she was. You don't have to change the character. Just keep writing that same character that she was. She was perfect, and they are hiring these young writers that just fill script pages, just like I'm sure that they hire bad artists sometimes that just,
But where are the editors? Where are the editors going?
Right.
No.
Well, I want to answer Swagg. So, yes, I do believe Marvel and DC engagement farm, but they engagement farm from a place of trying to make that splash. And too often, like the new Warriors with Snowflake and Safe Space, I honestly think they thought they could engagement farm and turn that into a win. But when they realized, oh my God, everyone hates this idea, that's when they just cut it off. They don't continue the engagement farm. They literally tuck tail and run. So, I mean, does that answer what what you're kind of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I asked the question kind of fully knowing, like, yeah, I think that that's what they're doing. All they care about is short-term sales. That's all they care about. And maybe that's what the editors, Jesse, you said, well, where's the editors and stuff? Like, maybe that's all they care about too. Because, how do they get, I don't know what their KPIs are, when you work at Marvel Comics and stuff, but like, I imagine if you're an editor and you say, well, the titles that I oversaw sold X more, then it's like, cool, then I'm doing a good job. When it's like, I mean, I don't know, is if that's how they determine what a good job is, like, then we're in trouble, because the incentive structure is just to get the most,
you mean
number one issue.
Are they green lighting? Yeah. Are they green lighting dogs so their other books look good? I don't know. It's I'm in your camp, Swaggle. I mean, I don't think they know what the hell they're doing.
I really think this is one of the reasons why we see so many people that are really looking at the smaller outfits, the individual creators, people who are putting a lot of passion into a single book or a couple of books or what have you, that is really the success of which is hanging on their efforts, people who are digging in and scratching at the world just to get their piece of it. And it comes through in the art. It comes through largely in for the most part in the quality of the product. Now, some people you do see, they just do the absolute minimum and expect the world to kiss their ass. Those people don't last past one or two issues.
Yeah. Wouldn't you think, though? Wouldn't you think in business, as you're marketing something, you're actually looking for the reaction to what is posted? And then making a business decision from there as well. So it's kind of like amalgam, right? We're then test these two characters together. We're then see if anything works, see if anybody likes Iron Lantern. And I think this could be a notion of, let's see how people react.
I have a hypothesis that not a lot of people actually take a look at the business aspect. Now, I think the creative aspect has to come first. That's just my personal opinion. And then after that, figure out how to market your product. You're going to find as a creator that sometimes an idea you love isn't cherished by everybody. And so you just kind of have to accept that. You can still make it as much as you want. Maybe 50 or 100 years from now, someone will find it and say, damn, that was really onto something. H.P. Lovecraft is a really good example of that. Okay. But I think that in a lot of the cases, we see people making fundamentally bad business decisions. And maybe it's because there are too many cooks in the kitchen. Maybe it's because people were overly optimistic about what their projection should look like, or maybe they just don't understand what they're doing in their role. But on the other side of things, I'm seeing folks like the guys who are producing Common America. I'm seeing people like Mike Shea with Miskatonic High, Madeline Holly Rossum with Boston Metaphysical Society. People who are pulling hundreds and hundreds of people into their crowdfunding campaigns and then turning around and going to their convention appearances and selling hundreds more at every appearance.
Right, exactly.
And that, building that fan base like that, it takes some sweat. But these are people who, whether through their own education and their own research or just through sheer experience, they know their business as well as they know their creation. And I think that once you do that, you just stick to your game plan, adapt when you need to, and you'll find success.
Hey, Swagg, I want to ask you about OAX real fast. what was the tell us about the consumer that went, and tell us about the dealers that went, because that was a very successful con, but there was a cost to it. Can you explain that to us?
The consumer that went is probably a, pretty well-to-do person who is a very eclectic, collector of expensive things, or they are a fan of the creatives that were there and wanted an autograph. Those were the two people that were at that show. It is interesting to see the dealer side of it, because it's much like comics, where you got the guys who are like, Jack Kirby or bust. Anything art after Jack Kirby is trash. I don't get this modern stuff. And then you got the guys who like own, the original page to, Ultimate Fallout 4, and it's like they just had the foresight to be like, some of this modern stuff actually it's probably good to pick up. And there's that friction with those types of dealers. And I'm starting to learn some of the inner dynamics of like, it's very much like in comics, the friction of how you sell comics, which is like everybody flips, but the flippers that are the most like on the nose about their flipping are frowned upon. I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, what I was asking was, the dealers there, were they looking for, so if I walk up and I'm already saying, wow, $50 for just the print, or was that a show that kind of said before you walked in, listen, unless you can afford, $500 for this or $1,000 for this isn't really a looky-loo type convention? Did you feel it was more of a this is the top line collector in art? If you're just a Wednesday guy picking up comics, did you think someone has felt welcome there?
I think that, yes, I think those people did feel welcome, because one, there is cheap art that you can find and buy. Like, it still exists, and they're on the tables and they're in the dealer walls. But two, I think that they had a lot of, they had the galleries, or they tried to do galleries where it's like, oh, here's this type of, Marvel card art, and here's these types of art. So even if you just went to the show, there were some sort of sights to see and sounds to hear, and, senses, to take in. So I think that you could just go as a casual person, but also I think a lot of people were there to spend some big money, for sure.
Right.
Gentlemen, if I may, real quick, I've got an artist I really have to meet with.
Okay.
On this thing. I'm so sorry, but I want to thank you guys for having me and letting me offer my opinions. It's been a great deal of fun, and I hope that I'll get to talk to you guys again real soon.
All right.
I'm going to leave something in the private chat for you guys to check out, because I don't have a wrench, and see what you guys think of that pre-launch page for me. Okay. And if you would, send some suggestions my way, or your thoughts and opinions. I'd love to hear them. Sure. But hey, everyone in the chat, make sure you're liked and subscribed. Come down here to get some really cool insights from a lot of different aspects of the comic industry. Brian, as always, Jesse, Dennis, everybody, guys, y'all rock.
Appreciate you. Later, Sam.
Later,
Hey,
Sam.
Billy, I want to talk to you because you have had some really fresh takes on being a online retailer in the past. And one of the things that has really angered you, and along with a lot of other retailers, but you specifically on the show, has been dealing with Diamond and damages, not getting books. And now that's kind of over. What are your thoughts on everything right now? I mean, how are you feeling about all this?
It's not over yet. Still getting damages, and I'm still waiting on replacements, and still everything's still late. I get partial orders. Like let's say I order 50 books, right? Of one book. You can hear me, right? 'Cause I have this little thing on.
Yeah.
And I'll get 20 of them. It's like, okay, well, where's the other 30? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted to jump back real fast, and then I'll come back. So you're talking about Gwenpool. They're going to
Yeah.
do a Gwenpool.
Yeah.
So this is my idea of that. Two possibilities. One, they're going to launch it and then they're going to announce a Gwenpool animated series on Disney or something like that. Or two, they're just putting another book out there. I mean, if you look at it, there's, I don't know exactly how many titles, but let's just say 25. I don't know. There's probably more or less in that area for Marvel.
50, but
People,
yeah.
Like
how
40,
many?
40 to 50 right now.
Okay, well, let's
Yeah.
just say that.
Yeah.
And people only order 10 of them. So they're just they just keep doing. They just keep going. It's just a
Well, it's not
game.
just that, but it's also bait for the variant people. Who doesn't
Well,
want to
sure.
draw sexy Gwenpool?
Sure,
Yeah.
and that's fine. They could sell, yeah, and the inside might suck. Yeah, you're right. But it's nothing new that I don't know what the question really was. So that's my thought. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
In regard to Diamond, though, I mean, like we were just talking about the other day, finally Keen Spot is over at Lunar. And everyone was saying, oh, it's so hard to get to Lunar and Penguin. You remember I was telling you 2 weeks ago? That's bullshit.
Yeah.
They're just not trying. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
Well, I thought
And
they
then-
got in through Massive, right? Aren't they be in there through Massive?
Keen Spot has their own.
No,
thing.
King Spot went straight through.
So Keen
Yeah,
Spot
Keen Spot.
Keen Spot has they had like a little weird
Imprint.
route that they took. They had the owner had an imprint that they were already doing stuff through was it Penguin Random House or Lunar that they're going with? I can't remember.
It's
Whichever
Lunar.
one it is. Is it Lunar?
It's Lunar.
Lunar.
Mhm.
Yeah, they were already doing something through Lunar through this imprint, so it made them easy.
one that
It made it
makes
easy for
stitches.
them just to hop right over because they were already doing stuff with them. So
Yeah. So, well, either way, even before that, I sent you a picture of 3 publishers that were below them in regard to popularity that got in. Remember, I was sending you, look, dude, this guy is getting in, this guy's getting in, this guy's getting in. So I feel like all they have to do is make a decent enough pitch where, and they'll get in. I don't understand why Lunar or Penguin wouldn't want to devour any publisher. Why wouldn't they? It's money.
Yep.
So
Because it doesn't pay for the people that have to ship it. There's not moving enough books to pay the hourly rate for the employee to pack.
but they're already paying them.
to pack DC books and pack Image books.
I don't understand. They have a ship. What do you explain better?
So
to
what
me?
he's
Like,
saying is, if someone only makes 1,000 books, but
Mhm.
only 100 sell, it's not worth their time to actually grab that book, put in the box. That's what he's basically saying. Even though shelf life is very expensive at a warehouse, right? So if you have 100 bins and 90 bins are selling, but you got these jamokes that can't sell anything, and you got 10 open or bins that aren't selling, you want to rotate those out and bring in,
okay, so you're talking about shelf space. So
Yeah.
it was my thought that that's why they do pre-orders, so they can, once they find out the print number, they send the distributor that amount of books, and then they ship them out. There is no shelf.
Well, there is shelf life because some companies are going to say, listen, if my goal is to sell 1,000 books, and listen, Billy, you know this, Emmett, you know this, Dennis, you know this. Look at the sell list that just came. Well, Dennis, you might not know, but look at the sell list that just came out from Diamond. All those books sitting on the shelf. 800 different titles.
And maybe that's why they're bankrupt.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
they-
exactly.
One
And
in
so
100.
Lunar's looking at that and saying, we don't want to do that.
my
Penguin's saying,
point.
we don't want to do that.
That's my
Yeah,
point.
but they don't have
So
to do that, Jesse. They don't
That's
have.
right.
Well,
That's what I'm
Lunar
saying.
doesn't have to because they'll just move it all over to Discount Comic Book Service and clearance it out
Yeah,
there to
yeah,
the
yeah,
customer.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I get the theory that, but what I'm saying is That's why pre-orders exist. Diamond built a huge backlog of stuff, whereas Lunar, they only get the books, then they ship the books out. Then if there's damages and I go back, I
Which
get
is
lucky to
5%, yeah.
I get lucky to get replacements because they're gone. They're sold out.
They can't sell out their 10% damage rate.
Well, they can, but
Sell
they
it
have to
before
wait
you
for
ask for it.
6
They
months
have to
do
wait
it.
for the 6
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
but they aren't. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, there is no backstock. They have like lists, the CSV lists that you can download. I don't know even how to order them once you go look at them, but I have sent an email, and then all the books that I picked off their lists that are supposedly backlist are not available.
Yeah.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. Riddle me this, guys, Lunar lovers. Do you think that? Do you think the discount comic book service has to accept any damaged comics when the DC pallets come in? Or do they leave all the damaged ones over there for the retailers and they make sure whatever inventory they had segregated off for discount comic book service goes over there pristine and they get rid of all the junk
I
that
get
you
it.
guys?
I get it. I get what you're saying. You keep saying that, and I don't know if that's happening or not.
But you're
okay?
getting damages from Lunar, right?
Oh, minimal though. That's my point.
Oh,
It's true.
minor.
Minimal.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I get like, dude, Penguin's worse, but they're better. They're still better. They're getting better, and they get replacements. But Lunar's the
Penguin's worse
best,
'cause-
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lunar's
Penguin's
I barely get
Penguin's
damaged.
bad because of Marvel's paper quality.
Paper.
sucks.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I
But-
love Lunar because when I get my boxes, I have shipping supplies
boxes
to
shipped.
ship out stuff, right? Because it's like, how much bubble wrap you then give me for this 5 books?
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like Penguin too, though, because they ship the
T-mailer.
paper filler,
Yeah.
and I use that to read packs.
Yeah.
So I don't have to buy supplies, but well, I do, but
Yeah.
But no, Lunar is pretty spot on with clean books. When I get it, I'm not nervous at all most of the time because the
let's see when
boxes are
Diamond's
50
come.
pounds.
Yeah. Have you guys noticed, just to ask you something, these are the diamond boxes that have been coming in. All right. What's different?
Oh,
about
you
these
wow,
boxes?
you're lucky. You
They
got a box.
can't pay their printer. I said
Yeah.
that 4 weeks
It
ago.
doesn't say diamond on it anymore.
Doesn't
Yeah.
say diamond on them.
You're lucky you got a box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, they're sending me like crappy Geminis
Really?
with no padding, and I get lucky if I get a box. The only time I get a box is if they have the monthly catalog or I order a toy. But of course, there's no more publishers over there. Everyone's gone, so I
Right.
barely use them, except for Dynamite and maybe Xenoscope. And Boom, of course, but that's it. And
Yeah, I
Titan.
mean, I technically just use them for their buyout list. They're paying
Yeah,
so
your
much
back
stuff
is
on
shit.
buyout. It is crazy.
The last
Why?
2 weeks have been insane. It's cost me a lot, but
Oh, I know. Is that crazy? That list? Swag, you want to answer that question from
Which one?
RJ McReady?
What's the most important
RJ.
book you
What's the
own
most-
in your collection?
Oh, well, my childhood Dark Hawk 1 and Wolverine 1 are clearly the most important.
Wrong answer. Sanity.
I can't let go of those childhood copies.
Yeah,
I love my comic, but
And then that's funny how that's answered, because most people would say, oh, I got an AF-15 or I got this and I got that. But most of the people will say, no, I have my Avengers 129 that I got on January 25th, 1982 at the Friendly Neighborhood Comic Book Store in Las Vegas. That's my most important comic book to me. And I think that's very important to hold on to your history, your tradition, your culture. It all starts somewhere. So anyway,
How
today,
exactly did
specific
he
copy
ask
has
the
a soul.
question? What was the question exactly? How he asked it?
What's the most important comic book in his collection?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
not expensive or anything like
Yeah.
that. Important.
Yeah.
And
Mine's
that's part of
X-Men
that.
9.
What is it? Dark Hawk 1, NFL Super Pro 1, and what's the third copy to be in that special group? I forgot the third copy is. It's some crazy comic book, but that's part of the trio Secret Society book
Sleepwalker.
collectors. Yeah, Sleepwalker. There you
one.
go. Sleepwalker, Darkhawk, and NFL Super Pro 1. That's the secret handshake.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think that it's very. We're going to continue to talk about this, and it'll be. I'm sure once more, the more the dominoes drop, will continue. It'll continue. But after Comics Pro, it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of Comics Pro. I'm really happy that you're going and reporting on it, Swag. It's going to be a lot of news for next week's show, I imagine. And then
Yeah, I don't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, brother. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, I don't quite know what to expect or how I'm going to cover it. Maybe I'll do the vlog thing. You know.
Swag, did you buy any original art? I kind of like it. I saw your video on the thing, and I clicked and I kind of went, in and out because I was working and stuff. But I was curious, did you get any original art when you were there?
So, quick story. I didn't buy anything. I went fully expecting that I might get something if I caught my eye. But I didn't buy anything there because there just wasn't the right thing. And then I had my eye on a particular piece on Comic Art Fans for a long time. And so after I went to the show, I became very motivated.
You pulled the trigger.
And I made an offer to the guy, and I actually have it.
What
right
is
here.
it? Yeah.
Oh, why don't I actually? Are you trying to close out the show, Brian? Can I?
No, you're good, brother.
No. It was just talking about the topic. So.
All right. So no one is going to think that this is that cool except for me.
You don't know that.
Very, very specific. So I'm a big video game fan, fantasy art person. And one of the games I loved playing when I was younger was Warcraft, World of Warcraft, that whole Blizzard side of things. And so I bought this original key art oil painting that is a World of Warcraft piece by Wayne Reynolds. And it features a lot of their flagship characters right here. It's called Caverns of Time, if you guys happen to know the world. And so, this is this really, really beautiful piece that I thought captured the essence of the game really well and the fantasy aspect of it. And you
know what's so amazing about that, dude? Is that it's so small, and that to do an oil, it's oil, right? So to do that oil painting like that on such a, it's not small, you know what I mean? It's a smaller piece.
Yeah.
But there's a lot on it. So they were very meticulous on details and all that, all on such a small piece of canvas. I find that amazing to me. I love that stuff, like where it's
no, I mean, to your point, Billy, it's like when you look at it, you see the individual little pencil strokes and how he did it and outlines, and then so you really appreciate all the details. And I can even see him doing a little erasing stuff and paint over. So it's cool to see all those aspects that went into it.
I'm in a total nightmare right now with my piece, Brian. The peach from Lucio that I got of Eve. It's gigantic, right? And I brought it to like the most expensive framer in Scottsdale that Brian Polito had me go to. And they were stretching it. First of all, you should never stretch an oil painting, okay? At least an older one, right? A new one, there's some elasticity apparently. But they were stretching it just a little bit to wrap it, to frame it, and the varnish started to peel off the top of the oil painting, not the oil painting itself, right? So they called in and Lucio freaked out because I had him on the phone with me and the framers. I did I send you the video, Brian?
No.
Oh, I don't. I'll send it to you later. But so they had a restorer go there. Lucio's was in Italy, talking to all his people because he's never seen it happen before. And they're like, they ended up saying, you need to send it back to Lucio, back to Italy, for him to, like, if possible, remove all the varnish and re-varnish it without destroying the painting. And
that's
so
bullshit. I
called Lucio.
pissed.
Dude, you have no idea. It's been like 8 months. I called Lucio today and talked to him, and he's like, I'm in the Canary Islands right now, and I'm here for like half the year. That's his second home. And shipping here is literally impossible. I would never ship the painting to me here. He says, Billy, you're going to varnish it yourself, and I'm going to help you do it.
Holy shit.
He's like, it's easy to do, he said. We'll go live together, just me and him, and you will revarnish the painting. And I'm like, dude, you're fucking crazy. I'm not going to do that.
You
He's
know
like,
what this
"I'm telling
is?
you, Billy."
This is like where
It's
like you
ridiculous.
have a pregnant wife and you're stuck on the highway and you call the doctor and the doctor goes, you have to deliver the baby.
Get her in the
Dude,
back
he wants me
seat.
to touch this piece, and they're telling me they will not touch it until it's fixed because they already basically
fucked it up.
They fucked it up.
They should
but
do it for free now.
I guess, dude, and they also told me they're not going to refund me
What?
the money for the frame, which is like $1,500 because it's a massive piece. So the frame's like $1,500. And they're like, we've already got the pieces and everything. We ordered them special, and because they make it, And I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. This guy,
Lawsuit.
the framer guy is in Paris right now, and I'm like talking to all these goddamn assholes. They're not assholes, all right, but all over the country, the world, and all I want's my painting done.
Yeah.
And so I am probably going to revarnish that Eve that Lucio did for me. I think I'm going to call my dad, because he's a retired surgeon, and he has like the magic hands. You know what I mean? Like soft, delicate. I don't know what to do, dude. It's absolutely ridiculous.
There's a Google reviewer that is then get a hold of you, and that Google reviewer is then do a review of what you just said, and I think you're then get taken care of. So
you should make a video and see what people say.
Yeah.
If there's any varnish watchers in your
channel.
Oh, dude, apparently it literally almost never happens.
Yep.
Watch
Never.
Bumgardner Restoration on YouTube. He restores fine art, and he does that varnishing in every video. So you can watch how
Lucio
he
does it too.
Yeah.
Lucio films himself too. It literally, you just goop the painting and you just brush it.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Got to buy a really good brush though.
Yeah, soft brush. I have all the information.
But it can't leave any hairs either.
Yeah.
I'm so. You're scaring me already.
Yeah.
Like, I want to
videotape if it only turns out good. If it turns out bad, then destroy that.
I just don't want to
tape.
ruin the painting,
Yeah.
dude. But he said that the paint is good. He said it's the best paint in the world. That Lucio is it's the best oil paint in the world. It's not old, so it'll be safe. You just have to get a soft brush and put. Dude, I'll send you a video, Brian, and you'll freak out, dude. It's been the worst nightmare. It's a money pit, that thing. It's an absolute money pit. And
Thanks, Brian Polito.
Yeah.
No, but literally, they are like the best in Scottsdale. Oh, they're in Old Town.
Yeah.
So
Swagg, was that piece, and I'm going to outdate myself here, was that piece your Nathan R. Johnson telephone book has arrived moment? Do you know what that is?
I don't know the reference, but I assume that it's a very important thing that I wanted.
Right. Brian, can you pull that clip? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
I'm an old man and I don't know that.
Really? You guys don't know who the phone book is? When you guys see this, you're going to say, oh my gosh, it's one of the best lines in this movie. And that's how comic book fans are.
I'll be right back, okay? I gotta make a phone call.
Oh, from the jerk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Oh, you didn't say it right, Jesse.
Well, I said Nathan.
You have to say he hates those cans.
No. That's afterwards.
Right,
so this is how a comic book fan feels.
Gee, Mr. Hartunian. Oh my God! Thank you. The new phone book's here! The new phone book's here! Well, I wish I could get that excited about nothing. Are you kidding? Page 73, Johnson, Maven, R. I'm somebody now. Millions of people look at this book every day. This is the kind of spontaneous publicity.
A comic book fan is, right? Swagg was probably watching, tracking every day, saying, "Oh my gosh, it's in Georgia now." You know, that's how we are.
Yeah. And actually, I was like that actually because it came from France and I bought it from somebody, and it's like it was a little, you know, there's a little faith.
Feels a little sketchy, right? I gotta go.
Yeah, it's a little, you know, like I mean, he's trusted person I'm buying it from, but you know, I'm like, is it really going to show up?
Brian, I'm sending you a link.
How long from when you paid did it take for you to get it?
Actually, it was really quick.
Oh,
it was 3 days.
Did they DHL or FedEx or DHL or
maybe UPS?
UPS. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So a reason to have a comic book shop instead of not just being online. Not me, but my buddy who's not too far from me, about 40 miles or so. Guy walks into the place with a John Wayne number 28, page 8. It's like a splash page. Almost the entire page is John Wayne walking in. $50. The guy asked for $50 for it.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Toby Press, John Wayne. I was like, oh, you lucky bastard.
So I've got in 2 days I have an auction ending at Heritage for like a really big killer piece that I'm selling. And if you or Brian, can you pull that up? So Simpsons, Matt Groening, Jim Minton. Oh, you've been following this one?
Yeah, because this is in the card section. So
yeah.
It caught my eye, and then I saw you talk about it. So I was like, "Oh, this is Dennis's card."
So go to that second picture because this is what I've been following every day. Wait, is it that one? No, it's. Oh, I sent the wrong one.
Yeah.
That Heritage has this thing where it tells you, the seller, what the stats are on the item. Yeah, no, I sent you the second picture I sent. So. It tells you how many views the item has, how many people are tracking the item. There you go. So this is what I've been following all week. That number is like doubled and then doubled, and it's the most popular and the most active in that auction that's ending in 2 days. And I think it's currently at like 6,700. But
here,
yeah,
Brian, I sent you the link to it. You can.
What was the estimated value?
In the private.
I don't. What's the estimated on it, Swagg? I can't see that side of it.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, well, maybe Brian can pull it up.
The highest grades. There are PSA 1010s that sold like 2 years ago. PSA only started grading these 2 years ago. But it's got a remark. It's, you know. Oh, current bid 7,000. All right.
And this is like on 45 days or something like that? How many days?
It's got 2 more days. It's been up for a month.
How many days? How many?
28 days.
28 days. Okay.
Not bad.
And that, speaking of art, in that same auction, this is another cool thing. If you guys are fans, I sent that Jusco piece right there.
That's mine too.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's cool
that
you have that.
Yeah.
Is that the art for the card?
Yep, that's the art, hand drawn, and like Bill was saying, it's really small. Like, and then I was watching your show. This was already on there, and I was watching your show with the other art, and he draws these small and paints them so much detail in such a small little package. But yeah, that one is a monster.
I'm surprised this isn't at more than the.
It really jumps in the last day. Most people are going to watch this stuff go off live.
Yeah.
Do they still have people in the room at Heritage?
They do. So that Alias is mine. The Angelina Jolie is mine. The Jennifer Gardner.
Do they take like 30%?
No, I have a special deal with them, so I pay a smaller percent because I give them like big premium items.
But that's like an average, right? Pretty close.
Which
Do
one?
they give you
30%? Is that about an
No, I
average?
think they're 10 to
25. Yeah, 25 is the top. I sent some stuff in and I got 5%.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Dennis or do they send you any like advanced stats? Like, will they tell you like, oh, you had 10 different people bid on the Bart card?
Yeah. So that was in that picture that I sent. Currently, there are 14 bids to get it to. So actually, 15 bids now because of it just jumped again. But there are 114 people who have saved this and are tracking this auction.
Gotcha. But it doesn't break out like maybe the 15 bids are the 2 people that are back and forth.
Is it individual?
Possibly.
Individual?
I think so, yeah.
It doesn't tell me unique or anything.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, this is great, man. A lot of great cool card stuff.
Yep.
I
like
sent
all the
them
wacky
20
packages stuff.
Yeah, I sent them 20 packs of Star Wars.
Oh, are you in this auction too, Emmett?
No, it was early. It was an earlier auction 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but they got a lot of really cool stuff.
Look at all the GAI stuff, man. So GAI, Global Authentication Inc., was the first company to grade unopened packs. My Walter Payton 76 Topps football cello with the Walter Payton rookie on top was originally a GAI graded pack, and I sent that to PSA, had them crack it out and put and cross it over to PSA. But whenever you see these old GAI packs, man, these are amazing, man.
Yeah.
See them.
What was the name of the diamond asset that did grading?
Collectors Group of Authentic CGA.
Yeah.
And what do they grade?
Toys, action figures,
everything,
other
yeah.
collectibles.
Oh, okay.
Video games.
Did they do VHS?
I think they did, or they still do. I'm not for sure.
I know I went to somebody for VHS and they wanted $129 to grade.
Yeah,
VHS.
they charge a ton for that because there's only a couple people doing it in that market.
Yeah, I still need to find. Is there someone that does cassette tapes?
Yes. So here's
CAS.
the thing, though. Yeah, here's the thing, Jesse, and I know what you're getting to. There's a new company that started doing cassette tapes not too long ago. We had them on the show, on the channel, and it's really cool. But they will only do they don't do promo or cassettes yet, because I asked them because you have that Motley Crue one, and I also have the Linkin Park ones, the Hybrid Theory ones, which are super rare, and I wanted them to grade them, but I told them, they don't have a case. Like the case isn't like a normal case like you would normally see. It's just it'll just say
Cardboard
promo
sleeve?
on it with a sleeve, or my Linkin Park stuff came. They were just regular cassette singles, but they were in a clear sleeve, not a like a regular sleeve, and they said they weren't ready to grade those yet, but once they do, man, that's the type of thing that yeah.
So
100%.
Brian, I'll send you this last link here, and not trying to kill the show, but remember I told you about that Flint? It just went live tonight.
So Dennis has a Pop One Flint G.I. Joe graded figure that he's selling right here. AFA, what is it? AFA 85.
85, yeah.
Second highest grade,
Pop
only
One.
2 higher. Yeah. So that's beautiful,
Crazy.
man. Such a great figure.
What do you expect that to be around, Dennis?
I have no idea. The previous two, none of the higher ones have sold. And so the previous two are the AFA 80s. and an AFA 95 sold a while ago for 2,500, and then the other one was like 1,600, and the 80 is around 1,000. So this is probably going to go for up in that like probably 3,000 to 4,000 range, maybe. They don't know.
I would be very surprised if it goes for that. I hope it does, because I feel like Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes go for around four to $6,000, you know. So
yeah,
if it does, man, means that the GI Joe market is super healthy.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've
broken market's doing really well, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I've broken a total of 6 records on Transformers AFA 80 and 85s. So the market is definitely strong with this stuff right now.
Right. Yeah, and the important thing to know about this, when any of us are showing this stuff, this isn't stuff we went out and bought. This is stuff people brought to us.
Yeah.
And so when you want to look at big collections and you're buying, you don't want to parse the collection. You just want everything in that collection. Everything in that collection. And that's how you get this type of product. Because it's all bundled in together, and it makes it easier. And then you can parse it after you get it into what's good and what's not. And sometimes we don't know what's good and not in some of these purchases.
Right.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. Are these is this yours too? This
No. That so you went back out into the regular auction. That's mine.
What?
So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff. It's a full mix of auction. I sent you the link to just my stuff. But yeah, the Heritage has been getting the most crazy stuff. I mean, they sold the ruby red slippers last year. That's mine. Black Claw variant.
Yeah.
Hey, Dennis, can you answer the question in the chat from John Horn?
Oh, sorry. What is it? Didn't
No, the sticker does not lower the grade anymore because a lot of people want the sticker.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. So I've always had that philosophy, because if I got all of my G.I. Joes, I bought all of my G.I. Joes from a store called Ventures in Illinois. Okay. Most people have no clue what that is. It was basically Target. I bought all my figures there. That is a nostalgia for me to see a Venture sticker. You know, if you bought your stuff at Kresge's, you want to have that Kresge sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah. For us in the Northeast was James Way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Us would be Zodi's, Gemco.
Service merchandise.
Yeah, service merchandise. There was a big brand called Wonder World back out here that did stuff like that. So yeah,
we also had Caldors. Was another small, regional.
For me, it was the Toys R Us right next to Metro Center Mall. We'd go to that Toys R Us, and me and my brother would run into the G.I. Joe G.I. Joe area, and they would have G.I. Joes from like 2-3 feet all the way to like 15 feet, just full of G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
And
Love
we
the
would,
Toys R Us.
Oh my God, that Toys R Us. I could smell
I worked there for 6 months.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. It's like kind of like Star Wars at Mervin's.
Yeah,
right?
Mervin.
You ever see the Mervin's was
That's where I got my G.I. Joes.
Was amazing for G.I. Joe, Star Wars, Transformers. And it was a clothes store. It wasn't a toy store.
It was for the moms to leave their kids right in the little toy part.
Yeah.
We had a service merchandise, and they always had the catalog stuff sitting on the shelves. And they had all of those Star Wars 8-packs and all the stuff that's going for mega thousands now. And
we had a service merchandise too. That place was cool. There's only one though.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy
Remember,
stuff.
KB Toys had the big discounts.
Yeah.
They were a smaller toy store, and they had to move. They had to move all this. It was a small store. They had to keep moving stuff.
Well, no, but they bought closeouts. That was the original. Yeah. They were the original Ollies and Big Lots.
Yep. Yeah, Ollie's something happened at Ollie's. I kind of hesitant to say this, but their business model has changed since January 1st. And I feel that it's going to affect my business as far as my Ollie's purchases. It's probably going to affect my purchases by about 70% this year. And someone got smart and said, this effing Jesse James is in here every day, and he walks in, and if we have 50 Disney villain books, he buys all 50.
Yeah.
And then we find him on eBay selling those books for XYZ. So why can't we do that? And I think they've gone down that route. I'm trying to figure out what their secret eBay page is, but I believe that's what's happened. Zia Records did it, right? They have a fake page. There are so many publishers, and I'm getting myself in trouble right now, that have fake eBay pages to flip their product.
Well, they're
there's
always been so
stores
sad
too,
about
complex.
missing out on that, missing out on the secondary market.
Yeah.
They're all, what they don't understand is that's what keeps people coming back for the front market, right?
Yeah.
Like Pokemon is not worried about the secondary market. They don't care because it keeps selling the primary market, right? So if Pokemon started going to zero in the secondary market, do you think anybody would be buying it the first out? No, especially me. I'm not buying it if I can't make a little extra if I hold it, or if something gets really hot, or I'm busting boxes for singles. They need that secondary market, but a lot of these want a piece of that secondary market.
Sure. Well, it's, again, like MegaCon. It blows me away that Zenescope was the only publisher at MegaCon. I know you said Tidal Wave was there. I did not see Tidal Wave. There is this essence that publishers are going in so many different directions that they're missing the opportunities to get in front of live people versus virtual people. I just got a whole bunch of Zenescope in a box, and they were from a virtual con they had. And I'm like, you guys did a virtual con, but you didn't do a Comic Con.
That's a big thing. Oh yeah, that's a big thing. Matter of fact, they just did one for the fires in. Did they do that already? The raising money for the fires in
That comes out this FOC. There's one book that comes out this FOC. I'll talk about it in a couple days, but at least I know that there's one book for the fires, and 100%, I guess, well, 50% would go to the store, right? But the other 50% that the publisher would take, they're donating the whole profit. So basically 100%.
100% the wholesale.
It will, for the publisher themselves, is going directly to the fires. I forgot the name of it, but it's a book. I think it's $10.
But by what publisher?
I'd have to get up and look.
Okay. We'll figure it out. We'll have it by next show if it's on
something special. Yeah, I'll let Brian talk about it in a couple of days.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of them are doing those virtual cons, and it's been tried for many years. I think it became a thing right when the pandemic happened. Yeah, so
Jesse, I believe Jesse was with me at the first ever con like that, virtual.
Oh, virtual con. Actually, yeah. Now that I remember, in fact, I just saw the promo for it a couple days ago.
No,
I was like, I don't remember.
You and me were at the very first one, but you don't remember. I don't think.
Yeah.
Seattle closed down because of COVID, so Brian stayed and decided to do the con live, and at Coffin, and that was the first time ever anyone had ever done a virtual. Well, I guess. Live Comic-Con from a location, all online. And I called it SickoCon because I was live streaming on my end, and Brian was live streaming on his Facebook. So I had SickoCon, and dude, it went absolutely berserk. And I believe, Jesse, you were there on one of the days. I'm almost positive you were there.
Were you guys there for the Reed Pop Diamond Retailer Summit, virtual retailer summit?
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
Okay. It was pathetic. Yeah. It was literally just, how can we still get money out of these people when everything is shut down? And they just they tried to do the little small group discussions, but through virtual and rotate everybody. And it was just like, how much are they paying you guys to do this? You know, how much are you guys making off of this by getting us to sit in front of these publishers and try to sell us stuff when our stores are closed down?
Yeah. Yeah. In-store convention. Remember in-store convention?
Yeah,
books?
God.
Yeah. In-store convention books. There was a thing, what was it, Emmett? I don't know if you'll remember this. There was a exclusive that was done by like 20 stores, and it came out every week, and it had a weird like ghost logo. Was it?
That was Phantom. The
Phantom.
Well, okay, hold on. So Comics Pro, the members of Comics Pro got together. This is some history, and you guys could follow up, but none of this is bullshit. The members of Comics Pro used their Comics Pro clout to create an organization called Ghost. And they got a special Walking Dead variant. And it was only available in these X amount of stores. I want to say it was 15. And these things were going for $50, $100 right out of the gate. It was a really cool mod version of Michonne. I want to say it was 119. And we're all like, well, how the fuck are you doing this? Nobody could get Walking Dead variants. Well, and then I was like, wait a second, isn't that the 5 members of Comics Pro plus the other stores that they own?
Right.
And so Larry of Larry's Comics in Lowell, Massachusetts said, fuck you guys. We're going to have a group of 50 retailers, and we're going to do the Phantom variants, and we're going to do a drop. And he set up all of these things. And the Phantom system worked really good until it didn't.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
In my past life, a long time ago, after I got out of the military, I did brown and white goods, which are electronics and appliances for a mom and pop place. And they had what they called a buying group, where you had a fee to be a member, and then you could buy like, Samsung televisions at the same price. Maybe not Walmart, but people like Bamberger's and, Sears and stuff like that because everybody was buying together. All the mom and pops were buying together. And that's kind of the problem we have. We're all individual. I'm a small comic shop. I only can buy this amount. Bigger comic shop buys a lot more. They get the 58%, but I'm making 35% on DC books. If they didn't come out with Absolute, I probably would have dropped them by now. And if there was a bigger if Comics Pro was that buying group, or anybody else that we create that and we all could buy through them, and that should be our distributor. Our distributor should be our buying group. Yep. And then we all get the better amount. And then I get this much and that guy gets this much. Yep. And they're like, well, what's the advantage if I sell more? You make fucking more. How about that? That's your advantage.
Yeah. This was tried. Trying to think if I could legally talk about this.
Well, let me just talk about the Comics
you
Pro.
do that, and then I'll figure it out.
So the biggest rub that all of the other members of Comics Pro that didn't get a Ghost variant for their store was you used your power as the Comics Pro people who set all of this up to take Kirkman out to dinner and to get this special deal for just you guys. You weren't negotiating for the totality of your Comics Pro group. You were making a group within a group that got this elite status. And that was the last time they did it because the whole membership called them on that.
Yeah, so when Atomic Comics went out of business, New 52 #1 was just coming out. And the problem was Atomic Comics, who's one of the top 5 stores in the nation or in the world at the time, was just in the Kick-Ass movie as the comic book store. At that time, they had about 2,500 box holders. Well, those box holders had to go to, Billy, do you remember how many stores there was at the time? Maybe 20?
In Arizona?
Yeah, at the time when Atomic Comics went out.
Couldn't be more than that.
So it was about 20 stores. Well,
all
20
the stores were Atomic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So So what happened was all of us had to pick up 2,500 customers. The problem was the book was releasing the following week. So what they decided was they picked one store in town who was then get Atomic Comics orders, and I'm not going to mention that store. And we were to go to that store and pick up comics for our new box holders, because I picked up like 250 box holders because I was literally across the street. I opened up my store across the street from Atomic Comics, my first store. And so I go there and I say, okay, well, I need 250 of this. And I'm looking at stacks of thousands of Wonder Woman #1s, thousands of Batman #1s. I need 250 of this, 250 of this. Okay, I can give you 36 of this, 25 of this, 46 of this. Well, wait a minute, I need 250 each. I was told I could get what I need. Well, this is what we're giving you, right? And so what happened was I went in the following week because obviously I'm short Batman #1s on their counters, thousands of copies. Why? Because they wanted it for themselves. They didn't want to share.
Where was your first store located?
My first store was on 43rd in Peoria, and then the Atomic Comics was 35th in Peoria.
Okay.
So it's like the caddy corner, right at the outskirts of Metro Center.
Peoria,
yeah. And I had taken over a hookah lounge.
Yep.
And didn't know what the hell I was doing, right? I picked this store. Now keep in mind, I just moved from Seattle, and I pick a store. I've never lived in Phoenix before, but I pick a store that is all windows. Right?
Facing the sun, or
facing the sun, all windows.
I'm
like, and the guy's like, "Are you sure you want this store?" I'm like, "Absolutely," because everybody's gonna be able to look at my store. And he's like, "Well, you might want to tint your windows." I'm like, "But if I tint my windows, no one will be able to look in my store." And I got that first power bill, and I tell you what, I can tint those windows faster because my power bill was like $1,200. Right, because the sun was just coming in.
It's like the winters in the Northeast.
Right. And I always tell this story. I was a big Pulido fan since his beginning. I was in all the forums. I was always a head guy in the forums back in the day, but I'd never had actually met him. And the Atomic Comic owner, Mike Malvey, was good friends with him, and he knew I was a big fan of Brian Pulido. And so literally the night before opening, I get a call, and it's this guy, and he's like, "This is Brian Pulido, and I heard you're opening up a store, and I want to be the first person to do a store signing for you." And I'm thinking, these mother effers in the forums are effing with me. I'm like, "I'm sorry, dude. I don't have any time for any selling." He goes, "Well, I heard that you're a big Brian Pulido fan." I'm like, "Yeah, I am a big Brian Pulido fan and a big Chaos fan." He goes, "Well, why don't I come out?" And I'm like, "Dude, no, I'm not falling for this." And so as I'm hanging up, I can hear him say, "No, this is Brian Pulido." And I go, "Click." So I'm like, mother effers. So Mike Malvey calls me, goes, "Dude, do you know how long it took me to convince Brian Pulido to do your first signing for you?" I'm like, "Whatever, dude, don't be mad." He goes like, "No, that was Brian Pulido." So I say to him, well, now I'm too embarrassed to call him back to have him come out. And Brian Pulido obviously calls laughing, and he goes, "No, this is Brian Pulido," and blah, 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 blah. So at the end of the day, opening up a store is more about just opening up a store and selling comics. It's these awesome things you get to do that you were a comic book fan of, or doing having your own YouTube show, that you get to do stuff that most comic book fans don't get to do.
Well,
and so you create these long-time relationships and all that stuff.
And another cheap plug for my YouTube channel, Wonder World Comics. I just shot a video on everything you need to do to open your first store, and that's going to drop sometime later this week.
There we go. That being said, we just got our notification the other day for our 3rd anniversary on YouTube. So,
all right.
Yeah. Yesterday or a couple days ago, it was 3 years to the day that I started the channel. I hadn't done anything other than just start the channel. The first live we did was in March, so we're coming up on the third anniversary of the channel. And that being said, we are doing some really cool things that are going to be coming out, and they're going to kind of start with WonderCon. I'm going to be announcing some really cool things during the time of WonderCon, and we are working on a lot of cool stuff. We're working on I got merchandise, shirts and stuff that will be announced and will be ready during WonderCon. We're working on our variants, so we have multiple variants that we're working on that are going to be announced soon. That we're going to work with just the cool people that we love here at Beyond Wednesdays, all of our friends and family here at the channel, and we're going to be doing our best to push, making not only the channel better, but our relationships better with the people, like the people that you see here. The people that that I love doing these shows with, and the people that I call my friends. So this is going to be a big year for Beyond Wednesday. So if you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys if you really like what we're doing over here, excuse me, there is a membership option. It's very cheap to just become a member. I think the lowest thing is like $1 a month or something like that. And I'm going to be doing some really cool stuff for members. There's like really cool stuff. So if you guys want to support this channel, the easiest way to do it is subscribe, like, watch the content, take parts in, comment, take parts in the live chat. But if you're really able to support the channel monetarily, whether that's through super chats, memberships, or just supporting any of the guys that are on the channel, whether it's Billy at Economics and Comics and his store, Swagg and what he's doing with his book Sanity on his Kickstarter, and the three other retailers, Haven for Heroes in his shop, and of course Jesse and Dennis in their shop, and all the other guys that are on the channel. If they're here, then I respect them immensely, and I think that you should check them out. And that's how you guys can support us. So,
and what I love about it, it only took you 3 years to put something in your background.
I know.
So that was a big freaking step.
Yeah. You go watch if you go watch old Flipside videos, I'm in a different room. I'm downstairs in one of my main rooms, and
piles of shit
sliding
everywhere.
Sliding glass door.
Sliding glass door. You see Abby walking across.
And his roommates would walk past, and I was always expecting somebody to just come up behind him and kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny when you look back at your first show. I'll tell you a quick story. When I used to do radio for ESPN back in the 90s. And I did my first show, and I thought I did amazing. And I came in for the next show, and the manager says, "Come on in the room." And he goes, "Listen to this announcer." And I'm listening. I'm like, "This guy freaking sucks." He goes, "Yeah, that was your show last night, dude." And so it's amazing how we pivot constantly, right? Learning not to say all the time or whatever it is. And you need to go backwards to see how you evolved to make yourself even better. So don't be afraid to go see yourself 3, 4, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it is, because you will see how much you evolved. And that's where the pride factor comes in, because you have to have a lot of cojones and a lot of pride to do live streaming in any way, shape, or form.
Amen. So, all right, you guys, we are 3.5 hours in. I want to say thanks to everybody that hung out with us tonight, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night for the Wednesday night review show. And give us all a follow. You can find all of our links in the description if you're catching this on the replay. And these guys are all easy to search. Make sure you guys show them some love. We're out of here. We'll see you next time. Adios.